Good evening. My name is Susan Stevenson. I'm the chair of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for the Village of Southampton, New York. I'm calling this meeting on December 9th, 2019 to order. Do I have a motion to open?
I make a motion that we open this meeting of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation on December 9th, 2019.
Second?
Aye.
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 Aye. Before we begin, I'd like to make it clear that I expect everyone, the board and the public, to act and speak with civility in this room. Anyone who wants to speak should sign in at the front table. So we have the correct spelling of your name for the minutes. No one may speak unless they are recognized by the chair, and we only want one person at a time up here. If you're presenting materials, please put them on the front table facing the board so our videography can pick up the images. Now I'd like to introduce our board for tonight. To my left, Rob Coburn, Sarah Latham. To my right, Jeff Broadleaf. Our counsel is Alice Cooley. Our recording secretary is Jolie Sanchez. Zachary Studenroth is our historic consultant, and Charles Styler is our videographer. I'd also like to point out that we really have no purview over the inside of any building, so please don't tell us about the inside of your building because we have a long agenda. Let's begin. First, minutes approval for November 25th.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from November 25th with the small amendments that were made, passed around to the group.
A second?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Great. Next, signs. In future, we're discussing how to make the sign situation a little smoother. And maybe at our next meeting or the one after that, we'll be presenting a change in the procedure. But for tonight, we have Southampton Daycare Center, 100 David White's Lane. Is there anyone here for this? Please step forward. Doesn't it look just like the sign you had, or am I crazy?
No, that's a different one. You are not crazy.
Oh, okay.
There we go. We have
That's what I
confirmation.
just went.
And it's on the public record
Yeah.
That you're not crazy.
that you're not.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know about that. But, so it's just a redo?
We had a very ugly sign, which coincidentally got knocked over about a week ago. So it got knocked over. But anyway, this is a new sign. It's just prettier. Our other one was just a square, and it didn't have our logo on it. Didn't really look like a daycare, the sign.
Okay. Charlie, can you pick this up at all?
I think you got it.
Oh, great, okay. Anybody have any comments?
I have no concerns. Handsome.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, motion to
Any
approve.
public comment?
Any public comment?
I'll make a motion that we approve the sign for Southampton Daycare.
Second?
Aye.
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 Okay, super. So we can go ahead and order it?
You
Yeah.
may.
Okay, thank you.
Go for it.
Bye.
Next, Southampton Books, 16 Hampton Road. I thought this was a cute sign.
I hope you're talking about mine.
Yes?
Yeah, the whale?
Yeah,
Can you,
Yeah.
yes, there is.
Stacy Menzer, Hampton Signs.
What's the material?
It's PVC. It's the same as what's there now. This is just replacing it, same size.
Everything? There's a whale there too, still?
No, there's no whale there now.
There's a
But
whale.
it's the same size, it's the
Okay.
same
It's just
dimensions.
screened or painted on PVC, black
Yeah.
paint on PVC.
Yeah, it's pretty
I had no objection.
discreet. Does anyone from the public? Motion to approve the sign of Southampton Books.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, yeah. Chic Beauty, 22 Nugent Street, storefront sign. Do you have a copy of the sign?
Thank you.
Your name, please?
Sandra Correa.
Anybody have anything to say about this?
My only question was, it
Big?
says that the dimension on that is 3/4 inch thick material. So the material is 3/4 of an inch thick. Does it sit out from the wall, or it's flat against the wall?
It's flat against the wall, yeah.
Okay. And no lighting associated with it?
Nothing. Just the metallic letters. That's it.
I don't have any objection. Does anyone on the board?
No.
Anyone from the public?
I'll make a motion that we approve the sign for Chic Beauty on Nugent Lane.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Now we're on to written decisions. Here, oh, Rob, I'm
Yep.
sorry. So we received the written decisions by electronic transfer, which was good, so we've all read them, correct? All right. Yeah, because we got them ahead of time. So let's start with Emanon South. Oh, wait, I actually need the paperwork.
Me too.
This has to be live and in person. They're all in one, aren't they? They're all together. Watch your coffee.
Thank you.
All right, I need the original.
Yes, yeah. Does anyone want to see a copy? We've all seen them, I think.
No,
So is this
I'm good.
stamped original, or someone's written original? Do I have a motion to approve the written decision for Emanon South Corporation, 276 North Main Street?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 Who didn't say aye? Rob.
No, I did.
Everyone did? Next is Stephanie Hessler, 328 South Main Street. I am a recusal from this, but there are three people if they
Okay, yeah.
approve it.
So I had a question on this, which, Allison, you're probably the best person to answer. So at the meeting, and it says in the written decision that they were to, I think, either submit a landscaping plan or otherwise provide a
Signed
a
statement.
statement. So they did, in fact, do the latter, provided a statement that as of now, they know of no plans to remove any trees and that any subsequent landscaping would come before the board. So they agreed to that. How does that get incorporated actually into the written decision so that it's one of the same, not as two separate documents?
So it was done as a condition of approval, and because they've already met that condition, it's not something that's going to hold them up at the building department at this point.
It's in the file, Jeff.
Right,
Their
so
letter is in the file.
So being in the file, but not being specifically referenced as that the applicant submitted such and such a form, et cetera. Okay, as long as you're good with it, I'm good with it.
Right. Motion, oh, I'm already in here. Motion to approve the written decision for Stephanie Hessler, 328 South Main Street.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 Next, 199 Cooper's Neck Lane LLC. Do we have that? Sorry, I don't, I can wait. I know it's
Keep
paperwork.
going.
Okay.
Just pushing paper.
Motion to approve the written decision for 199 Cooper's Neck Lane LLC.
Zach?
Yeah, I just wanted to,
The public record is closed on this,
So-
unfortunately. I'm sorry, we can't hear from you on this.
Do you want-
But we can make a motion to open it
reopen
for
it.
discussion.
You can make a motion to open it, or the board members can discuss it without opening it.
I'd like to make a motion to reopen for the limited purpose of a comment from our historic consultant.
I'd like to add in a
Do you
comment as
second?
well. Second.
Okay. So the motion is to reopen for the limited purpose of comments from the board and the historic consultant.
The board can do it without reopening. Go ahead.
Okay. Second, as everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Aye.
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 All right.
not meaning to make a tempest in a
Well, go
teapot here.
for it.
But just very briefly, I think there is, one thing that may have been overlooked is the potential loss of some historic fabric, which has been approved from a design standpoint, but the actual material that may be lost and discarded in the equation. I would only
Some elongating the windows.
elongating and losing the brick, which is quite distinctive to the period of the house. Perhaps one way of mitigating that loss would be to condition this by saying that material be saved and preserved against
Specifically,
some-
the bricks below the windows that
Yeah,
are being changed?
there are bricks that are being elongated to floor-length doorways, and that's often considered to be a rather modest adjustment from a design standpoint, but in this particular case, we're looking at therefore the loss of that actual brick material, which is irreplaceable. So perhaps the design is fine, it's been approved, but that it be conditioned on the retention of that brick material so that that change could be reversed at some future point. That makes it less irreversible, if you catch me. I think that's kind of a detail,
Wow, you guys are dreaming.
Are they just...
well, there's an adjustment of floor levels.
Right. Are they just lowering the window? Is the windows the same height as the original? So
The top
the
is-
windows are being elongated.
The windows are being
Down.
elongated.
So it's a matter of actually
I misspoke.
retaining the
They're not being
materials.
changed to doors. They're being elongated as
Right.
windows,
Okay.
but necessitating the loss of.
All right, so yeah.
Jeff, they're cutting down underneath
Right.
each of a handful of
Dropping
windows in
the
order to,
Right, so they actually have to
No.
save the bricks. All right.
In the spirit of a principle that we try to adhere to, which is ultimately the reversibility of certain changes from a design
Right.
standpoint, it's a modest concession, I think, on the part of the applicant to find a way to retain that brick material against a future
All right, so
restoration.
I think we can,
Conditional?
is there anyone here representing this application?
Well, we only opened the hearing
Yes.
for this limited purpose to hear
Okay.
from Zach.
All right.
so I have,
Thank you.
now we should close it, is that
Well,
correct?
I just wanted to share with Sarah, because we had some discussion just between the two of us. I was feeling somewhat concerned that we may have been rather blasé about the windowsills and letting them be painted and to do a scraping. I drove by this morning, and the material that they're using isn't different than, color-wise, in terms of what's on there. Now, the question, was there a different shade before? I don't know, but
But you know,
what I'm saying
we
is...
have, in all these Mocamonto, paint is, from
I
my
know.
training from the state, paint can be changed.
Right.
I'm not going down that
Wait,
path.
if you
Okay,
let me finish,
okay,
I was going to say, it's not an issue for me.
okay, fine. So that's
Okay.
not what we opened this for, so that's, so now,
Really looking
So-
at the brick material.
wait, council, is going to write something into this so we can pass this?
If the majority of the board would like to make it a condition of approval that the bricks be retained on site, I can.
So do we make them vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but we can do that as part of the resolution. Should we close the hearing again?
If the majority of you would like me to add that to this resolution, I can handwrite that right now, and then you can just vote to adopt it as amended. And it seems like at least 3 of you would like me to make that change.
Yes.
I will do that then.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion that we reclose the hearing
Yes,
for this
I
matter.
second that.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's just to close the meeting. Now we're back to writing a special condition. Let's go ahead to Casa Meadow
Okay.
LLC.
Can
and
we come back to that decision?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll be done in a mere moment.
Oh, you will? Well, that'll be fine. Let's do Casa.
Okay.
Next, Casa Meadow LLC, 96 Meadow Lane. Motion to approve the written decision for Casa Meadow.
So moved?
Second.
Aye.
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 Well, I'm not recused from this,
Just cross it out in the initial.
honestly. There we go. And in a minute, we can do the last one. It's just the driveway gates.
Myself.
Great. So I'll read this out.
Sure, thanks.
So the amendment, so we're adding a line to the written decision.
For 199 Coopers.
Subject to the applicant retaining on-site the existing brick material that was located beneath the current windows that is proposed to be removed. Okay?
I make a motion that we accept the written decision of, we approve the written decision of council as amended.
Second?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Moving right along. Thank you, Rob. Driveway gates, non-historic. Laura Andrassi, 298 Narrow Lane. Good evening. State your names, please.
Joe Roberto.
Good evening. Paul Lucia.
That is the same that's in here?
No, well, we made the openings 3 inches, as I believe Rob asked for, to make it more transparent.
Was not really an issue, but I decided to make a little
I'd like to
wider
give,
to get more visibility.
These are not the plans?
Yes.
So we have,
Yes, I submitted that,
okay,
yeah.
that's what I'm asking you.
That's,
Thank
yes.
you.
I'd like to also give each member a copy of each one of these,
Whatever.
and one to the attorney, which is the village code,
Thank you.
because I think some people on this board do not know the village code. Would you like me to start?
Yes, go right ahead.
Perfect.
The mic is over here. Yeah, you're fine.
It's right, just stand there, you're
Oh, okay,
fine.
sorry.
Yep.
Okay. My name is Joe Roberto. I used to always go to these meetings, but stopped some time ago after I noticed how some board members would treat some applicants.
You know,
This board, can I finish, Susan?
I actually would like to hear about the gate and
I'm
not
going to
about
tell you about
your
the gates.
emotional life with the board.
This board,
No, that's out of order. Let's just hear about the gate.
I'm trying to tell you, you wouldn't allow me 2 sets of gates. In my last,
We haven't done anything on this except.
you dismissed us in the last meeting for 1 set of gates. You told us we were allowed 1 set of gates.
I didn't tell you.
You
anything.
didn't. Jeff did.
No.
Look at the
Counsel,
tape.
Counsel.
I don't think that's what was said at the last meeting.
Okay.
But if you could present the new gates that you have.
Yes, I do. I have them right here.
Okay.
So this is the same design, same materials with the change spacing on the
to
slab.
get a little over 50% visibility.
Correct.
Great.
And that was what was requested
Well,
by
that
you,
is-
I believe.
That is
By
our
Rob.
standard.
Okay, which I actually like better.
Anyone Especially.
Which I do like better, because it was 2 inches, and I think this makes it a little bit more
Friendly.
prominent. But please do understand, there are gates across the street, 2 sets,
2 sets.
but they don't have the frontage that we have. We have 187 feet, so we are entitled to 2 sets. They only have less than 100. And the village code, as you know, 100 feet or more, you are allowed 2 sets of gates. That's why we never reconfigured the driveway. All we did was do a renovation to the house. We left the driveway as it is. We did not add a double curb cut. It's been there 20 years. There are double gates on Farrington Close down the block, and on Wickapog, as you know, there are double gates up and down Wickapog. So, to say it's farmland, or it's this, or it's that, I think it's kind of an edgy, touchy subject. Narrow Lane's a very busy street, you know that. And this owner has 3 grandchildren that ride bikes in that driveway. It's a double yellow line. It's a busy, busy street. Probably one of the busiest ones in the village. It is a down block going to the ocean as well, with the college, with the kids running, with the buses, with, all the trucks coming down. So I know your concern was trying to get 1 gate, but we are entitled to 2 gates.
I had no money.
I know you didn't. You didn't. No, you didn't. I know
I just
Jeff's
wanted to
concern.
hear what it was.
Okay, but I know Jeff's concern was that, and I believe
Well,
Sarah's
that is what
concern
we're
was
here
that.
for.
Okay, fine.
Our opinions.
I got it.
Oh.
Okay.
Joe, if you've said your
Yes, I'm done.
So, one, what you said, and Alice seemed to recall as well, was not what I said. It wasn't about one gate or two gate. It was about gates at all. I was making the point that this is an area that is reminiscent of the fields that existed, and is more of a farm area. And yes, there are gates across the street, and as I said to the gentleman, they are wrought iron.
Two sets.
There's
Wait,
another
wait,
set, Jeff.
There's two sets, Jeff. You only said one.
See, two, okay.
There are. One is
Okay.
AZAC, one is wrought iron.
Okay. In any event, those gates, as I saw them, and if I missed something, so be it. But still, the gates that I saw were almost 100% see-through. Obviously, they were iron gates,
I
so they're
agree.
not.
I agree.
The addition of additional gates on that property, I felt were out of keeping. And while there are many things in the code that a builder like you and other people, homeowners, are entitled to,
Right.
this board, by the very same code that you provided us, says that this board shall apply its judgment to determine what is compatible in a particular area and grant. Joe,
I got it. I'm listening, Jeff.
you
Yes,
made some
yes, I'm
accusations
listening.
that this
I'm
board does
listening.
not know the code.
Okay.
This board member does know the code.
Okay.
And will go chapter and verse with anybody about the
We
code.
can do that. I mean, we
Okay?
can do that.
So, let's that being stated, okay? And you and I know each other well. so
Very well.
that's
And you
fine.
know I have the highest respect for you.
Well,
You know that.
Thanks. So
Okay.
that's why.
You know that.
So the code is the same for both of us, and we respect each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that code entitles us to exercise our sound judgment and reject those plans that we think may not be compatible. So in my view, what I was stating was that I felt that those gates, whether they're 50% see-through, whether they're 70% see-through on that particular property, on that particular street, were incompatible, and I felt change for perpetuity the nature of that street and that environs. So that was what I said, and that's how I feel. I don't feel that the changes that you made alter that opinion, whether they're more see-through or not. I still think that gates on that property, in that location, on that street, are simply not compatible, and therefore it would not get my...
Now, can I say something? I listen to you, and you have, I understand you.
I know, and you respect me, too.
And I do. And we fought many times, and I usually gave in, but this time I can't. I mean, I'm just being...
You can choose to give in or not.
Exactly, I
And I can
understand.
choose to vote my way or not.
Let's hear what you all have to
Okay,
say
so
about the gates.
let's discuss this. Narrow Lane is a double yellow line right in front of the property. David's Court, which is right 200 feet from us, has double gates up and down there. Wickapog, east of it, double gates up and down.
Joe,
but-
you're exaggerating, please.
Why don't you go and look?
Oh, Joe, that's insulting.
Is there anybody here that
Joe, you
knows?
said
Sir,
Okay,
sir.
yeah.
Joe, you said you respected me.
I do.
But that's insulting.
Sir,
No.
it's your burden to present character of the neighborhood.
Do I need pictures? I can bring pictures.
Fine, because
Okay,
but
okay.
it's not up and down. Yes, there are some. I'm not going to
Okay,
deny it. We
either
voted
way,
on some.
either way, on Narrow Lane, there are double gates. Farrington Close has a set of double gates, which is further up, but there are double gates on Narrow Lane.
All right, other board members?
I'm just,
Yeah, I appreciate the change. It does matter to me a little bit. More than that, though, having gone to the site, I actually agreed with Jeff with the idea that if there was one set of gates and it was wrought iron, that this could change the look and feel of that road. I don't buy the argument that this visually is part of the same neighborhood as Wickapog, half a mile, quarter mile away. On the other hand, there is another set of gates across the street, actually of only 4 or 5 driveways in the few hundred yards before you get to the school. There are 2 other sets of gates, including one that's out of AZEC or painted material. And that actually does change the equation for us.
I do have
This
the
doesn't-
pictures,
this
if
doesn't
you'd like
set,
to see them.
The same precedent that I
Yeah.
believed, based on what was said in the meeting last time, that it would. And so I'm inclined to allow these gates because I don't think it is precedent setting.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
fine.
Now that
Okay.
you've done that.
Thank you
Thank you.
Okay.
very much.
So I think I think we can relax here for a
I'm
moment.
relaxed. Susan, I'm always relaxed.
He respects me. Come
I
on.
respect him. I don't agree with him, but I
Is
respect
there
him.
anyone from the public who wants to discuss the gates at Narrow Lane? No one? All right. Motion to approve the application of Laura Andrassi, 298 Narrow Lane, 2 sets of driveway gates, as specified in the plans in the file.
So moved?
Second?
Aye.
Obviously, nay.
It
Thank you
carries.
very much.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Whew. Next, it's going to be a long night if it goes on like this.
No,
That's all I have to say. And
Joe and I go, we're good.
Thank
Right?
you.
we
We're
have a
good.
long, I will repeat, we have a long agenda, no repeating. Let's just, next, Lisa Bass, 20 Pelletreau Street, enclosed existing front porch. Huh. Well, I don't know how fast this will be. Your name, please?
Robert Fischetti, attorney for the applicant, Lisa Bass. We were here back on October 28th for the first hearing, and the matter was adjourned for an inspection of the property. I understand that one or more board members met with the building inspector, and it was determined that an inspection was not necessary to the extent that it was determined that this front porch enclosure was the only thing done to the exterior of the house.
Whoa.
But we did inspect the property.
Yeah.
So we did go.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, I didn't realize because when I spoke to the building inspector and when we were here last, you had said that I could attend, but okay.
Yeah, it wasn't necessary to
Okay, I
have a
understand.
full-blown
That's-
thing
I'm
from
not gonna
that
make a big deal.
perspective. But
Yeah.
yeah,
we
and we mentioned it at the
discussed
last
it at
board
length
meeting.
and reviewed many of the plans that were submitted and the approved plans, which do not really look like the house that we have in front of us. However,
Well, we have, if I can just get through this.
let me just
Okay,
finish,
go ahead.
okay? So that presents a problem for me, because the approved plans have a long roof, a second roof, that not just the porch, but all the way across the front of the facade,
Mhm.
which you didn't build, which is fine with me, because I didn't vote for it.
Right, no, I understand. We didn't build any of that approval. of
Yes,
the
and I didn't
July
like the dormers. But the problem is, so that presents something of a problem for us, because now we have an addition to the plans that were never built. And we don't really have a set of plans that shows what you're asking for.
Well, I did submit those last week, yes, last week, and I have sets for you here.
Oh, it's in there? Okay.
Yes, and I have
They
sets
didn't
for you
tell
here.
me.
That's okay.
So we're-
And I have sets for you
So-
there, which make more clear what the before and after were. There's also photos in there of before and after. I
We're
do
only interested in now, because before doesn't matter.
Okay, no, I understand. And just to clear up one thing that came up last time, there was a question about whether the platform of the porch was expanded.
And it wasn't.
It was not. There are photos. You can see that it's the same wood that's somewhat
Yeah, hey, do you have one of these?
Yes.
We probably,
So,
we've got plenty.
so Robert and maybe Alice, oh, here you go. As a question, for clarification. So inasmuch as that there was a proposal, an application that was approved that had
In
the
July 2018,
extension
yes.
that Susan spoke about, in that work hasn't been done, and you started, and I think you were saying that you have new plans. Does that mean that the old plans are now null and void, which they may be from the building inspector's standpoint?
If we approve this plan, it makes that null and void, I was told by the building department.
Correct.
Okay? So if
Is
we
that
approve...
your understanding as well?
Well, that's
I mean,
how
if
it
that
is.
is what it is, then
Yeah.
obviously there's nothing I can do. But my understanding with this was that this was required from our outside to be a separate application, a new application, because none of that previous application was acted upon. But that said, if you're telling me that
That's fine.
that an
But
approval
you have to
here
say
voids
you
the
didn't pay another fee.
When-
we did.
When you say,
Yeah, we did.
Can I just
Yeah,
interrupt for a
we did it as a fresh new
When you say
application.
none of that application was acted on, but the garage doors were removed, or the fake garage doors removed, right?
The
Yes.
the faux.
White.
Yes, so yes, I apologize. The faux outline was replaced with shingles.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Which I guess, yes.
So some of it was
That was part
You
of,
just
but.
need to correct the record.
Yeah, I apologize. The previous approval had double-hung windows there, which was not done.
Yes, which is,
the-
actually, that could be a sticking point.
Yep. That's
We
the
have a
sticking
problem
point
with
for
the
me.
windows that you have there now.
Well, the windows that are there now have always been there. There's a
Yes.
bathroom there, so 2 double-hung windows in a small bathroom in a small house wouldn't.
An approval is not an à la carte menu.
Well, but none of it.
It's, just for the
Yes,
public
some of it
record,
was
this is
done.
not even for this case. When this board approves something, it's not an envelope that people should feel a license to then pick and choose from, because elements combined matter. And the 2 elements that someone chooses out of 5 to do, we might not have approved on their own. So, and the windows is a good case in point here.
Well, the
First of
windows
all-
were not something that we acted on and did. The only thing that was done, to your point, was the removal of the faux garage. I mean, did you?
Yes.
I don't think the
but what
faux
he's-
garage
what
was
we're
something that
saying is,
anyone wanted to.
We agreed, I voted no, but they agreed to a plan, which means that that's what we expected to be built. Not part of it, not one half of it, not one element. And so then to have done, have not changed the windows. So, okay, we can do it from this perspective, which is, we might not like the windows in your new plan because we liked the change in the windows from the old plan that gave us that idea. So we can move ahead this way without referring backwards.
Well, the new. Understand.
that?
We're
I
not
think
proposing
that's
any changes to those windows. Those were.
Those were supposed to be double hung, 2 over 1 or something, right?
But if we're looking at this as a new application, which it was submitted as,
Yes,
we're
but
just
we could
applying
say
for
we
the
don't
front
like the
porch.
windows, which is what we're saying.
But isn't that? I mean, that's unrelated to the front porch. That's just an arbitrary condition to say.
That's what we do, sir. I'm sorry.
It's not arbitrary. With all due respect, it's not arbitrary. Those windows from I went by this while it was under construction. That door form was essentially taken off, and the windows were reframed. So there was a choice to retain the windows and put them back into new framing, as opposed to buying the windows that were approved and putting those into the new framing. So, that's
The new framing, that front wall was not newly framed. It's the same. They changed the garage, the faux garage part, but that wall.
But the windows were set into that faux garage door. That was at one point an functional garage door, and the windows were set
prior
into
to
it.
this purchase. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. But that when that was removed, that facade was reframed. Unless I'm having an hallucination, I drove past there at one point when that was being reframed. And my biggest concern on this, Susan, is that those windows, that I'm not sure what that garage looks like now. It looks like
It's an
slightly
addition.
it looks like an addition from an era not related to the house, in my opinion. It doesn't feel appropriate as an
Right.
addition to
I'm-
that house.
I am personally at the point where,
If we could just, before we get off to the windows, if I could just finish my
Sure.
presentation
Yeah,
as
go
far
ahead.
as the porch enclosure. I don't have a lot. I just want it so I can get through that. So regarding the expansion, I just wanted to give out to you surveys showing that the setback actually increased by 0.3 feet from the porch.
Actually-
There was no expansion of the
building inspector vouched for that.
Yes, and then I did also submit last week, and these are copies of 6 additional letters of support from the neighbors. And I do, in case you did want to look at them, this is copies of the previous approval, just so you have it in front of you. So you can see that it was a much bigger, addition in the front.
Anyone care to see the correspondence?
So the previous approval was much more significant. I'm not going to get back into the circumstances of how my client got into this, but as I went through all of that in the past, I do think there is an argument that this falls within the doctrine of mootness, which, since my client did act in good faith, this improvement was inspected by the building department. It is complete and can't be undone without
What is
undue
moot?
hardship.
Could you explain
It's
yourself?
the doctrine of mootness. It was imposed against this board in 2017 to approve an as-built structure by a landowner.
Well,
And I'll
sir,
submit
you
that.
had put in an application that you didn't build, so I don't think mootness is going to show up on this, just from my weak legal, that doesn't apply.
That we didn't build. No, this is built. This is an application after the fact for something that's built, just like this was.
Yes, but you had an application that we recently approved, and you didn't do it. I don't want to argue all night, but this is
Okay,
just
I'm going to
silly.
submit this. That application
Counsel.
was completely separate. We submitted a new application for this. We paid a new fee.
Yes,
This
you
is
billed
completely
without
separate,
permission,
de
you
novo.
didn't build what you were supposed to,
This
and
should
now
be
you're
looked
telling
at-
us it's
This should be
moot.
looked at fresh. This is not a punitive board. You don't have the right to impose a penalty on the client.
We're not imposing a penalty. If anyone's
Then
had
that's
to
all I ask.
suffer,
I
it's
ask that you
us.
look at it de novo, that you look at it as if we had just proposed it. I've submitted in the past numerous photos of similar front porch enclosures in the neighborhood. This is not something that's against the character of the neighborhood. This is supported by the neighbors that have given letters of support. This is a functional breezeway or enclosure so that you're not stepping right into the living room. It's 31 square feet. It was done by a woman when, as her husband was dying. She
I don't
made a
wanna hear the
last-minute choice.
history. None of
But that's
this.
the facts. So that's...
Stop.
Rob, at the October meeting, the board expressed that they would review this application anew. So they are applying the right standard.
Okay, but I feel that they're bringing up still the fact that this was done before it was applied for, so they're not looking at it new.
It was done before it was approved. And that is not what hopefully, we're not about in every application.
Well, I think we've established that they're looking at this de novo.
Yes.
So let's move on.
Thank you.
Is there more that you want to present, Rob?
No, that's all I have.
Let me pick up off of what Rob was saying in the idea of cherry picking from one application to
We're
the
not
next.
talking about the previous
No,
application.
but at the same time, Rob and his client seek a certificate of occupancy, which they don't have now, which they cannot have until and unless that appendage is approved. I think the board probably, at least, and I'm speaking for myself, is okay with the fact that you closed it in. It wasn't what we had first approved, but on the other hand, looking at the new plan, I happen to like it better. At the same time, we're confronted with something that we did approve, that was a change in the windows that you did not do, and that now you're coming back and saying, that doesn't matter. And, but Rob,
It just throws a bump out,
let
though.
me finish, and then I'll,
Right.
because and I think, in terms of the overall look, that which was approved, those windows which were approved previously are windows that, and I'll take Rob's word that in fact there was some reframing, but there surely was work on that if you just looked at that piece alone, the garage, that the opportunity to abide by the approval was purposely not acted upon. So I think it's well within our scope to say, if you want your certificate of occupancy, by getting this board's approval, we'll give it to you on the front, but please abide by that which was approved before on the windows, and you know what? That'll be a nicer looking house from the overall scheme. So it's not perfect, it's not black and white. This is a gray area that quite honestly, your client created, whether intentionally or otherwise, whether for good circumstances or not. Your client created the situation. This board, Rob, respectfully, is trying to provide you and your client a solution. And part of that solution is, okay with the enclosure up front, do the windows as the board approved. I'm speaking for myself. I don't know if the other board
If I could
members...
just respond to that
Sure,
quickly.
sure.
So I would argue that's not necessarily de novo, because that is looking back to something not done in the previous approval. The previous approval also included bumping. Those windows would have been several feet forward. It would have been a different interior. I think that that's not necessarily the same.
Which one? Not the garage windows.
I'm just talking about the garage.
talking
Oh,
about
apologize.
the
Yeah,
garage.
I'm just talking about the garage
You're right.
windows.
The bump up stop there.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was just talking about the garage windows.
Let's not talk about the previous plan. We could say, we don't think that the windows that are on this small addition look good. How's that? And that we would prefer that a different window. How's that? I'm willing to go with this because I can't take it anymore, although I'm not kidding you.
Can I make a
Yes.
comment? I'm willing to accept the enclosure at the front door. I would just state, while the footprint hasn't changed, and I don't think I allege that it changed, the gable roof that was there over the front porch is slightly outsized for the size of the house. It's something that was often done on a covered porch or a stoop to make a grander statement.
You understand it was the same one?
I'm just saying, I understand it's the same one. I'm saying that original, and Charlie, I'll give you a picture if it's not up there, but I don't know which camera you want to get. But, so it's the top picture was what the house used to look like. That oversized porch roof was a feature of many homes. When you enclose it, it becomes an oversized vestibule that has a different visual impact, a much bigger visual impact than just the open shed roof that was there. So were this coming to us now as a first-time application on that basis, I would say no, because I think that enclosure is oversized for the house. But I don't think it's so oversized that it's objectionable. I think where Jeff was headed is that if there was an agreement to replace the windows on the garage, the former garage, with windows that comported with the previous ones that were 2/1s or 4/1s, whatever they were, I don't remember from the original application, but sashed windows, that to me would be more harmonious with the house and with the neighborhood and would be an acceptable outcome.
Sarah?
I think that would make sense, because not going back to what was approved and not approved, the 6/1 would be preferable.
Well, they'd have to come back with plans for the windows.
Well, yeah, and, as I was going to say, while I couldn't speak for my client to know whether that she would agree to that or not. I think she would, at the very minimum, want to just price it out so she knows what she's getting herself into with that. But if that's what your condition is, I can come back, if she's agreeable to that, I can come back with proposed double-hung windows with the understanding that those would be the trade-off for the
Mr.
client.
Fischetti, I think that 3 of the 4 people here, I'm cooked. You can do whatever you want with it. But they're taking my place. I mean, I went through every file, I really did. I looked at everything, and it was a lot of work with the building inspector. We have done due diligence.
I understand, and I appreciate
And
the
it
board's
really,
work.
it's more work than we should have had to do. So that being said, and we're at a new application, if you would talk to your client, and perhaps you could glance at the previous approved, because that section of the previous plan, I think, shows
Yes,
the
yes,
windows.
what I
Right.
turned around, yes.
Okay.
So that's
maybe she
what you
would
like, is
approve
the
that.
windows in that area from the previous plan.
Okay, or something like that.
Okay.
We're not telling her or her architect what to do, that we could probably be finished with this. How's
Okay.
that? So are you asking for an adjournment to our next
Yes,
meeting?
I'm asking for adjournment on those.
Thank you very much.
I make a
Okay.
motion that we accept the applicant's
Thank you.
request. Is there any public
Any
commentary?
public comment? No.
Make a motion that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn this matter to our next meeting. You can
In
postpone from
2020.
there, but we'll put you on the next meeting, and if it takes longer, just
It's
talk.
it's a
call the
long
building
time from
department.
now, because we
Oh,
don't
it's a-
meet
Yeah,
before
there's
Christmas.
no second meeting.
Okay, we'll see you in 2020. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
See you, Rob, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take back.
Next, Meadowmere Partners LLC. We should probably put one of these in there. 66 Meadow Lane.
Oh, did we
Good evening.
vote?
State your names, please.
Okay, we need to second and vote.
Oh, second?
Yes.
Aye. Sorry. Sorry, Julie. Oh, these are this was the landscaping situation.
Any stamped materials from the last application?
Did she stamp in one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Just we need
collecting them,
just one of
just
those.
pass them down.
Oh, here, you're collecting them?
I have extra copies if you'd like.
Give us a moment for some other paperwork. Or Joel, if you could just hold on.
Okay, we don't need, just one of those.
Do you have copies of this? Because I brought extra for everybody.
Yeah, we could use those.
There's a bunch of sets in there. It's yeah, there should be enough for everybody.
And I'll take the other Lisa Ross when you have a moment.
Okay, here's Lisa Barrett.
Yeah, oh, do you want this one to go back?
Okay.
Good evening. Ilya Mirgorodsky. We saw each other last week, I believe.
Yes.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
It just seemed like
Time flies, right? So today, we come to you with a landscape plan. As I mentioned in our last meeting, the property owner of 66 Meadowmere owns the center lot and 283 Cooper's Neck Lane.
you guys have any interest in seeing that.
You can share with me.
Yeah, I can share.
Thank you.
So what we brought for you today is a property plan of all 3 lots. This is 66 Meadowmere, and perspectives of the property from inside the property and 4 views from outside the property. So just a minute on the landscape plan, a question came up as far as existing vegetation and maintaining existing vegetation. As you can see by the site plan in front of you, all the perimeter trees are being maintained along with the hedge. The dark green circles within the property represent new trees. There's a little legend on the bottom left corner. The existing entrance point, the main entrance point for 66 Meadowmere is going to be on the existing driveway at 283 Cooper's Neck Lane. There is no gate here currently. So the idea is that this is the client's guest house and this is the main house. So you enter Cooper's Neck Lane, you drive up, circular driveway, steps into the main house, service entrance off of Meadowmere Lane.
The distance from Cooper's is approximately how much?
I think this is approximately an eighth of a mile. I think it's 400 plus yards.
You mean directly in from the street to the house, Jeff, or?
No, an eighth of a mile,
I think it's about 400 yards from point A to point B.
400 yards would be a quarter of a mile.
It's a long talk.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
I don't think it's 400 yards, but it's a long way.
It's a long way,
We'll
yeah.
accept it as being a long way.
Yeah, somewhere between 100 and 400. No, it's, I apologize, I don't have the number in front of me, but it's a long driveway, yeah. And then I brought you a key plan with a number of keyed views. The first 3 views in your packet are from within the site. The first view is called the eastern elevation, and here you could see a representation of the blue stone steps, which we looked at last week in black and white, and you had commented on the scale of the blue stone.
Around so we can see the light?
Yep,
We need to process it.
this way, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, yep. I had mentioned to you that the plan was to have the adjacent vegetation engulf the steps, and it wasn't evident on the plans presented to you last week. The planting plan shows you the concept, and the perspective shows the scale of bluestone steps.
That one also.
Yeah.
We're still on that. Oh, turn them all around.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
Go ahead.
So these were the steps that fanned out?
Correct. So the idea is that there is a fanning, but the fanning is basically kind of a rice paddy landscape. It's not hard material. It's going to be engulfed in vegetation. And out of that vegetation, the bluestones come out, and you could see that in the perspective. So the first perspective is the east elevation.
It's the white one in the lower right, Charlie.
Correct, the brick entrance. So it's a little brick pavilion, and that's the front door. And behind it is the first dormer. The house consists of 2 dormers going north-south, and the main one in the center, which is the common space. The 2 dormers flanking the main space are 7 feet lower than the main dormer in the center. I mean, gable in the center, sorry. Perspective 2 is the service entrance, where you see the parking and the main structure in the center with the 2 gables flanking. There is no hip roofs. I know there was a little confusion based on the images I showed you last week, but it's 2 gables flanking the main gable.
Could I ask you a big favor? Could you just move that into the center of the table?
Yeah.
Charlie, we're getting glare. I just
No
think for the
problem, sir.
record, it
Yeah,
might be
is this
helpful.
better? Or?
Yeah.
There.
If you go further right, Charlie, you'll get the one that he's pointing to now. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem. And the third perspective is the view from south looking north, and you could see once again the main structure in the center, flanked by the 2 smaller gables, and the pavilions in the forefront, which are part of the pool experience. And following that, we generated 4 perspectives of view corridors from different street angles, which are keyed back in your site plan. So if you look at view 3, which is Meadowmere Lane, which is this one right here. I'm sorry, this is street view 1. This is driving up Cooper's Neck Lane. You could see That's this view here, and you can see that the house is pretty much eclipsed by the existing hedging. That's view 1. View 2 is the corner of Meadowmere and Cooper's Neck Lane. Which is this view. Foreground is the existing trees, existing hedge. View 3 is across the street from Meadowmere. That's this view here. And view 4 is slightly further down Meadowmere. So once again, the composition of the house material-wise is eastern white shingles and white brick. We try to paint as clear a picture for you as possible.
Excuse me, John Bennett, also representing the applicant. I'm handing up what we compiled with some of the houses in the area, some of which were approved by this board, some of which are part of the existing fabric of the village, just to show that there's an area of diverse architecture in the area.
The garage area back here? How many cars does that fit?
Quite a few.
8?
I mean, it's basically empty space beneath the house. We're in a BE zone, so it's void space, correct?
That wasn't an answer, was it?
8's a comfortable number, depending on the size of the car.
That was not an answer.
8 small sports cars, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of outside lights on this back.
I believe there's 4 lights. That's a
There's
very big.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Looking at the garage.
No, I'm not looking at the garage. I wish I were, then I could maybe think why you'd have 8 lights.
We're looking at the south elevation.
Yeah. That's a lot of lights. I'm really conscious of this right now because of the LED.
Okay.
But that seems like you got a big house that spans, you know, but you need I don't know, what are those ones up high there? What are those for?
Well, it's a lanterns. There's a walkway, exterior walkway connecting both. There's a his and her studies on either side, flanking the main structure.
Oh, outside?
Yep, that's a walkway.
That doesn't, okay, well, they met lanterns. I don't know, it just seems like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 outside lights.
I mean,
It's the wattage just kept low. No, I'm really wanted to have more control over this because there's places in the village now that really are blighted by this
Right. I mean, I can't tell you the
overbright
watches right now, but
stuff.
we're definitely going to be cognizant. We are working with the lighting designer. And
Yeah, well, I mean, we might have to say how and why. That's all.
That's not a problem.
I'm not saying no, I'm just saying that's a lot of lighting. And that you have a giant house, and that's above.
It's a large house.
It sticks up so that people going past, if it were down where you can't see it through the hedge, that would be another matter.
Yeah, I mean, based on the street views, you're not going to see much of anything in the center of the house, other than from the existing.
Well, you're going to see light, and all I know is there are parts now that are inappropriately lit that I drive past every night, and that we don't really need to add to our woes. with that. I have questions about that. Other board members? I thought it was not, the landscaping part was nice. Thank you for doing it.
The perspective is nice too, no?
The perspective is nice, and the elevations, you've clearly shown the materials in context. I think it's a clean, modern design, and it's nice to see something, in my opinion, that's not pastiche or overly tchotched up.
Thank you, that was the point.
I know that tchotch is not an accurate
I'm
application.
picking up what you're putting down, that makes sense.
But I think it's, and the landscape, clearly, the first presentation made it look like
100%.
a ziggurat, and this is actually showing that it's highly softened by your good landscape architect, and I would go with it.
Thank you.
Jeff?
This house on this property works. And thank you, John, for providing other houses, but it's clear from driving around that there are, look, this is far from being a traditional house, but on the other hand, there are houses that are contemporary and transitional, and again, you have to, I look at the property in its entirety, and this house on this property works.
Thank you.
So I'm inclined to, I like a lot about this house. I think it does, as Jeff said, feels appropriate on this property, and I share Sarah's comments as well. The two things that stick out to me a little bit, I guess I have a couple questions on the south elevation. Can you just describe the dimensions of the framing of those open forms?
27 by 27.
But the members themselves, what size are those posts and beams?
4 by 4, and the top section is approximately 10 inches deep.
4 by 10, sort of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's bare minimum. We're going to have fabric, retractable fabric, so it's not a solid structure, and the client wants to have open sky views.
And it is painted wood as the
Painted
material?
steel.
Painted steel.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just,
There's something about the size and the whiteness of those. I know you've got white on other facades, but not so much on this side. You do sort of buried back in the center
the
section.
idea is also how light they are, that you're actually seeing through them to see green and gray and other materials.
Okay.
They take on a different personality.
It's the one thing that to me, it just to me feels slightly out of scale. I can't quite put my finger on it. I understand what you're trying to achieve. I think it's
It might be
interesting.
I agree, but it might be the perspective.
Could be. They're up front in this perspective.
I find those to be kind of ruin it for me, but I'm not going to say no because of it, but I don't like this.
And the only other thing that I would just, I know I alluded to this last time, I'd like how the steps look with the plantings, and I'd like the description of a rice paddy effect, tiered plateaus, or terrace gardens. I'm inclined to say maybe it works in this case. I'm not a fan of houses where you don't really approach the front visually, and I know you said your clients want privacy, but
Well, it's
I
also
think...
given the scale of the property and the approach, it's such a unique situation. Sorry to interrupt. It's just...
No, that's all right. A lot of people address that by buying properties that aren't right on the road, or by siting their houses away, which I think is not a case of an opportunity here. I would just take the opportunity to say that I would hope more of the applications that come before us have a visual approach that's visually accessible to the public from the street. But I understand in this case why I'm not sure it's inappropriate, but I just wanted to state that principle.
I think there are almost fewer lots where there's easels,
Yep.
to tell you the truth.
Exactly.
I mean, if they could have had a lot where they...
This is 3 building lots.
Correct.
Yep.
It's approximately 10 acres.
The only other question I have, which is, I know not our purview, but has someone checked with the fire department, make sure they can get the right equipment in that side and up the driveway?
We're in constant contact with Inner Science, and I think we're looking pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
It's a good question.
That's it.
Yeah.
It really is a good question.
That's not the call you want to get 11 o'clock.
Stealing the brick.
It's not what you want to find
Answer
out
that
late.
question. Okay, I have no other
Yeah.
questions.
Okay. Motion to approve the application. Any public comment? No. Motion to approve the application of Meadowmere Partners LLC, 66 Meadowmere Lane.
So moved.
Aye.
Second?
Oh, second. Okay. Aye. Second.
Aye.
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 Good luck with your project.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You're not leaving me, are you, Mr. Bennett?
Excuse me?
Are you leaving?
No, one other application resolution on it, but I think Lisa can handle that. The affidavits.
We don't want you to, I was trying, but it didn't work. Next, 85 Corrigan LLC, 85 Corrigan Street, construct two-story single-family dwelling and detached garage. Your name, please.
CEO Liu, I'm the architect for this project.
Is this the old or the new? This is the new. Oh, she's got small plans. You have small plans? Okay, let's not mess with these then. 'Cause
Is there any additional stamps material down there? Probably not, from the last
there wasn't
application.
anything for them.
There you go.
I watched the video, and my client and his wife watched the video. We worked very hard to make revisions, and I would like to start with the garage. Last time the board commented about the doors. That make it looks more like a pool house than a garage. So we took it out, and in that place we put in a fireplace because it is a very long wall. Without a focal point, it won't look good. So now we know, there's no door. That,
And it looks like the roof angles have changed, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm curving it.
But
Everywhere curved.
everything appears to be 12 over 12, basically 45-degree angle, which I don't think was the case last time. Is that correct?
For the main house, yes, it's we did simplify the pitches. So this is all like 12, 12, 12, and then a little flare at the bottom. And then also everybody don't like this dormer. I changed this dormer, so it's like just a regular shed dormer, no hip.
I'd start by saying that to me, it's amazing sometimes the big impact that a small change can have. My count last time was there were 5 different roof angles. I think we went from 7.5 over 12 to 12 over 12. And so just having uniform roof angles, to me, helps a lot. Makes sense of the forms. You're not wrestling visually with what you're seeing. And I appreciate the modification on the dormer as well. Just out of curiosity, I think it shows up later, but on this is aid 4. It looks like I'm not seeing the chimney for the outdoor fireplace on the garage, but I think you show it later, right?
Yeah, I showed it on the garage
In
plan
detail.
because it looks too busy.
Yeah. Okay. But we should, on A4, we should imagine that there's a chimney coming up.
Yes, it should be in the background.
Yeah, but this, so is there, the roof there's no flat, is there a flat part to the roof?
No, there's no flat roof.
Okay, I looked at the plan, but I always like to ask in case I missed something. But the pool, the garage has a flat roof part.
Garage doesn't have flat roof either. There's
Just
no
the
flat roof
ridge.
here.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
And what's the lot coverage? Is that on here?
I brought it last time.
It's exactly the same?
Yeah,
Okay.
no change.
Stay where you are. I asked that in the building department. Okay. Well, I think it's better.
And what is the brick on the outdoor fireplace?
Red.
I'm sorry?
Red.
It's a red brick, typical red brick, and that'll be a
What's it
masonry
called?
chimney?
I think so. They could have gas insert, but
Okay, but
But the material.
yeah, material is brick.
Brick?
And the shingle exposure is 5.5 inches on the
Yeah,
siding?
yeah.
Okay.
Typical.
Yeah. Mick, are you going to work with the builder if and when this gets approved? Because there have been other projects with a 5.5-inch shingle exposure called for that have been installed at 4.5, 4 3/4. I know this sounds petty, but it matters. So could you just make sure if you're involved
Yes,
in this
I
project?
will talk to the builder.
Okay.
Anyone from the public have anything to say about this application? 85 Portland? Board members? Good to go?
Good to go.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application at 85 Oregon.
Second?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You
Thank
seemed
you. See
so
you.
hopeless
See?
last time, but you did a good job.
You demoralized, and
Thank you.
we're not. Next, Captain's Neck Lane Realty LLC, 509 Captain's Neck Lane. Two accessory structures, a yoga studio and a children's cabana. Other way.
Hand these out to the board. I'm going to pass those on. I've got one for you.
Is this new? Do you have affidavits of posting and mailing? Great, thank you very much. Thanks, Rob. Would you like this? For the children's pavilion and the yoga studio?
I already saw it.
I don't like the metal roof.
Oh, it has metal roof?
What's that front part there, baby?
See.
That just
Let's
seems,
get the hearing
All
open.
right, let's go.
what?
Let's get this meeting open first.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Keene, Keene Development Company. I'm here for 509 Captain's Neck. This is a home that is underway by our firm. It's on a 9+ acre lot. The home is well along the line, hopefully finish up in another year. These are two structures that we are proposing tonight. They all meet the codes, both setbacks, height, size, etc. Almost 350 feet from the main road on one cabana and almost 250 feet on the other road, on the other cabana. So they're both good distance from Captain's Neck Road. They're fully screened with large existing hedges, and we're going to be adding additional plantings around them. The two structures are designed to keep in the style of the main house and anything else that's on the property. They are shingles roof, shingle siding, white painted windows, white painted AZAC trim. There's a stone wall that wraps around this to enclose it and give it more like a garden feeling. And you've got the renderings of the elevations.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but I don't want to bore you with a lot of statistics on two small structures on a very large lot.
I wasn't on the board when the larger application took place. Can you just remind the public, and myself especially, where this stone occurs elsewhere, the stone veneer? Is that?
It's on the house as well. Yeah, the whole back of the house sits up on like a stone, what would you call it? Terrace. Terraces. So there is stone throughout the house.
And generally that and other materials are, as you said?
All in keeping with the main house that's already been approved by this board, correct?
When was it approved by this board, do you know?
Probably a year and a half ago, I'm going to say.
A little bit over.
Maybe 2 years, yeah. Maybe 2 years.
But it's an enormous
It's a big house, yes. It's a very big project.
So now we're adding, this is not on this site. Oh, yes, it is. What do you know? Okay.
Yeah, it is fully conforming. It meets all the criteria for the village.
My question is, if this is a children's cabana, do they want to adopt me?
All of us.
So you can't see this from anywhere,
Really, you can't now.
but is that like a copper roof? What do we got going on?
There's a copper roof on the...
Is there a copper roof in the other
pavilion.
on the
Yeah, there's
main
copper
house?
roof, I believe, in the main house as well, yes.
Accent, not full.
Accent,
Right.
it's just,
Oh,
yeah,
believe
not
me,
the full roof.
I don't even think they could put a copper roof on that enormous thing they built.
Yeah, no, I think that's nice.
Pretty
and it'll
big.
add a nice patina when it's,
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it
And that's where
seasons.
we added those two little elements to kind of give it some architectural.
How tall are these buildings?
16 feet?
Oh, okay,
15.5, sorry.
okay.
They're low.
They're low. That's great. All right. Anyone from the public have anything to say about this? Any comments? Board members, any comments?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for Captain's Neck Realty at 509 Captain's Neck Lane to construct the two accessory structures.
I second the motion.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I'm gonna need it. Whoa. Just the,
You can give me a
yes, you'd love to have them.
We always use them, so.
There you go, John.
Do we have one for the file?
We have two for the...
Oh, that's plenty.
Thanks so much, appreciate it.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you.
Next, 130 Bishop's Lane LLC, 130 Bishop's Lane.
Hi.
I thought we approved this.
No, this is a different house.
Oh. Weren't you just here?
A couple of weeks ago, yes.
Okay.
I'm Matthew Pantafel. I'm the builder and the owner. Here's my affidavit.
Of posting and mailing both?
I gave you copies of these renderings. They're in your file. And that's the landscaping plan.
And what is the material of the house?
So it's white cedar,
Oh, okay.
you know, what do you call it, shingle?
Perfection? No.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of the brand, slips my mind for a second, but they're stained, white stained shingle, natural cedar roof, white AZAC, black windows.
Just to make sure we're talking about the right, there's an existing house on that property.
There is an
right?
existing
Right,
house, I'm
right.
knocking it down.
Right, okay.
We're
That's-
changing the orientation
enough
as
said.
well. Yeah.
Oh, where's this, what's the change in the orientation? It's not facing,
No, now it'll be facing, this is a flag lot.
right, I see
So
that.
no one really sees it, but you come in, the house is now facing the front. The previous house was here, facing here,
With a pool in the back or something like that.
with a pool in the back, exactly.
This makes a lot more sense.
Yes.
So a couple just quick factual questions. What is the exposure on the shingles?
6 inch.
6-inch exposure, okay. I didn't see that on the plans, but did I miss it on the plans, or is it
Here,
specified? No,
I don't think he specified it.
well, I think we
we'll need to have
need
that
that.
Okay.
specified. And could, in the future, it'd be helpful, this is a general comment, to have north, south, east, and west shown on elevations.
Okay.
Because front, rear, side, left, right, it is not the right record for us to consider or for the public to have. It just be
No
helpful
problem.
to show north, south, east, and west. Are the windows double-hung windows or casement
Yes,
windows?
double hung.
All double hungs?
Yeah.
Those are my questions.
It's acceptable, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Anyone from the public have anything to say about this application at 130 Bishop's Lane? New house? What's with, are there any, I guess they're existing trees from the other, you have a flag lot you're required to screen, right?
Right. But all the perimeter trees are staying.
Good.
That are there.
Well, good, because it seems a little bleak to me, your renderings, but, and kind of
If you
institutional
look,
without the
we have
landscaping.
all screening around, and then there's bushes all around the front of the house.
Is there a tree anywhere?
Yeah, right here is a red maple.
Okay.
The curve going into the garage, and these are all, what are those little guys called again?
I don't care.
Boxwoods.
I'm interested.
All the
in
boxwoods are by there.
Boxwoods. I'm just interested in the,
Yeah, and there's all
But it has
green
a kind of-
giants here and going around the whole
right,
property.
but that isn't like
No, I
the yard,
understand.
you know.
And then there's, like I said, a red maple, and there's a couple of existing tall trees
That's nice.
here, like all along here and one or two over
And
here.
those are staying?
Yeah,
Okay. I just think there is a kind of bleakness to the
yeah.
design, which is
Well,
neither here nor there, but,
Regrettably, or the existing property, well, the property as it exists now with the existing house, you talk about bleak.
okay, well, I can't, if you can't see it from the
Yeah.
road. All right.
What you may want to do, you're developing this for sale, I assume.
Right.
You might want to take up on what Susan's saying
soften it.
and soften it up. You don't have to do it for the
It
purposes
has a
of
kind
getting
of
approval.
severity that you don't need, really, 2 trees would change the entire thing.
Not a problem.
And you don't have to, and we don't charge for that
Yeah,
advice.
okay. Motion to approve the application of 130 Bishop's Lane LLC, but you will have to come in or have the architect come in and
Specify the
designate
exposure, at least 5.5-inch exposure, if they could.
the shingles.
Specify
So
the exposure on the shingles.
Can
Do I have to come to another meeting, or I can
No,
just give it to the
I'm
town?
asking you,
Submit
can you
plans that
send,
just show that.
are you the,
No, the architect's A.M. Sutton.
is A.M. Sutton would have to come in and write down on the plans what the shingles are, because we.
Or just give me a new plan and I'll submit it to the town. The board.
Yes, to the building
village.
department.
Yeah,
Building
yeah, yeah.
department.
Don't
Just
you have one?
specifying the cedar
Yeah.
shingles,
Not a problem.
5.5 or
Okay,
greater inch
so
exposure.
the caveat is,
North, south, east, west.
Yes,
And I'll put the
Specify.
directions.
if you would. Yeah,
No
Specify
problem.
the orientation of the elevation. So subject to those conditions, I will so move to approve this
Okay.
application.
second?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, so can we expect that pretty soon?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to call him tomorrow.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Next, 67 North Captain's Neck Lane LLC. Construct 2-story single-family dwelling with attached garage and accessory pool house.
Submit these are landscape plan?
Okay. Oh, okay, this is North Captain's. I already have this. Okay. You good? Okay, you want to see it, Zach? There you go.
Oh, that's, yeah, because I'm really digging around. Okay, thank you. Site plan.
Oh, okay, because I didn't see a site plan in the file.
Well, there happens to be one now, but I have a feeling-
Unfortunately, Drew did not, the builder did not submit it, so that's why I brought it with me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
You guys want it?
in future, I'm on the record. If your file isn't complete, I ask repeatedly for this thing, it's going to the next meeting. We cannot have this going on. Now there is.
When did that,
We ask all of us, it makes our job
were
hard.
these stamped in, or were they in the file?
There's one, a big one.
Yeah, it must have come in this afternoon, because I was there.
I didn't see it.
I was there at like 1 or 2, and it wasn't there.
Okay,
So
great.
it must have
This
come in after
actually
that.
is not stamped.
Yeah, those are in the file?
I guess, yeah. Can she stamp it? When did that site plan show up? Today? It says the 5th of December on something.
They just showed up now.
Huh?
I
Today?
just brought these tonight.
How about that one? Is that the site plan for
That's the large version of what you
Yeah.
just said.
Oh, okay, that also I just dropped off tonight.
today? Wasn't stamped into the file. None of us could see it. Okay. Fair warning, everyone here, listen, if you don't have a complete file, we're going to pass you by from now on. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, application tonight, single-family dwelling, 67 North Captain's Lane. Materials we're proposing, cedar shingles on the roof, a Maybach dipped cedar shingle color C-cast on the exterior, lead-coated copper gutters, the windows ebony, door and hardware, also doors and hardware, also ebony, bluestone patio. The property, it's a half-acre property facing North Captain's Neck to the east. The property is currently bordered by established privet, and on the north side, I'm sorry, on the west side, there's currently 40-foot plus high arborvitae. Since we do have some parking in front of the house, we are proposing also to add to the screening to the road some arborvitae as well.
So, so you have 4 parking spaces?
Are these windows, I'm trying to get, I see a garage in here. Is this the garage, or that's the garage, or what?
The garage is to the left, so those windows are actually in the garage, yes.
The windows are the part of the garage?
These big windows?
The one on the lower left in the front elevation.
This one?
So,
Correct.
And then it comes back? Doesn't seem to match.
Where's the setback there? Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's a little setback, Jeff, on that front form.
On?
Next to the right of the cars that are in the garage, you'll see a little, about a 1-foot setback,
Yeah.
which is the setback on the very left.
what's the point of having those big windows in the garage? Do you know?
Basically,
So people can see the cars? I mean, you know.
well, they'd probably, you know, tint probably to a tinted window, so you can't really see into the garage.
Hmm.
And the elongated window, is that?
That's the stairwell. That's the front stair.
Hampton style. That's his style that people just keep pushing. That I personally dislike. But who's to say? Board members?
The lack of wall ratio in that stair hall with the giant.
No, we were trying to get a slender type of a, you know, horizontal. I mean, a vertical look in the stairwell.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a design element that I'm familiar with.
I've
used
that on several houses and
used locally.
I personally think it's an unfortunate design element
Yeah.
that's used locally. That on top of the windows in the garage, these huge windows, right? I just don't get it.
Well,
what if they want to run down, honestly, I don't get it, and get a sandwich? Do they have to like get all dressed? Honestly, in functional terms.
No, the property is totally surrounded and hidden by, you know, I mean, it's a very private
Okay,
property.
just seems odd to me.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, it's the.
Yeah, there's cars.
Right. Now, what I will say is that the general design is not incompatible with some of the other houses in that area. And then you've got a big field that, I don't know if that's owned by the village or something like that, but there's a big field there. So the design, from my perspective, works overall and could fit into that area because there's a collection of houses. But I would be interested, and I think to your uneasiness about the length of that vertical window, if you were to shingle off the bottom third, I think you'd have a better design. That would be, you'd still have a very significant vertical window.
So you're saying eliminate the bottom section?
The bottom third, I think, would be.
I do think that's a good.
I mean, it changes. It's not as dramatic.
It also
but
doesn't
on the other
compete
hand,
with
it's
the
not as
front door,
dramatic.
which is recessed and hard to find, which is Rob's bugaboo, right?
One of them.
Yeah, one of them. So I think that's a good suggestion. And it, Anybody else?
An improvement.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the roof material again is cedar shingle?
Cedar shingle on the roof, yes.
So-
5.5
And
exposure on.
it's white trim wood?
It's going to be AZAC white, yep. Copper coated, lead coated copper on the gutters.
Are they on here?
No, the gutters aren't on the renderings. I don't see a survey in the file either.
Yeah. That was the big thing, but it
That's not a
wasn't in
survey,
there.
though.
Yeah.
Oh.
Stamped by
Yeah.
a surveyor?
Is there one?
No, because the
Yes.
survey would show setbacks and...
Unfortunately, I didn't submit the application, but my landscape plan does show the setbacks.
Where's that? This is for the,
Well, if you...
That's the pool, that's the pool.
yeah, well, this is a stamp from a, is this the
Well,
only?
if you folks are good with
No, I think he has to have a
shortening
complete file.
the window, I know, look at your face, Robin. Okay, but anyway, if you're okay with that, he's going to have to come back with a redone plan, and at that point, I'm sorry, your first name again is?
Charles.
Charles. Charles can then complete the file.
Yeah, the file's not complete.
Yeah, I'm inclined to think that that's probably a good idea, but I would like to see that in a rendering, that
This is-
the change of the window.
They've got one.
It may not,
Survey?
these people drop this stuff off.
It's not a
It's
survey.
not, it's not a survey.
It's a landscape plan. And also, I'd just make the same comment, I think that the elevations don't show directions, north, south, east.
Oh,
west. So
yeah,
just-
I obviously noted your last application. I'll also
If you wouldn't mind,
change
just helps the public record and
Why did they
helps
do
us
this in
as
the
well.
All right, so are you asking?
that. I
for-
also can certainly talk to the builder about the size of the window in the garage. Maybe we
It
can
just seems,
scale it down.
you know, it's not a pretty look, that's all. Who looks into someone's, when you drive up to someone's new house, it just seems odd to me that you would see parked cars. I mean, you're going to already see parked cars, there's a parking area, but I don't understand the reason for those windows, that's all. On the side, you could have them so you couldn't see in there when you came, but in the sort of addressing of the house, which I think was compromised also by that large window, I don't think that whoever was doing this was really, you know, because it's quite hard to find the entrance, the way things are here. But if you take that away, actually, I think it's a lot easier to see.
We can look at that, yeah.
I think that is an improvement. So are you asking to adjourn till our next meeting in 2020, in January?
Yes, we are.
Okay, motion to approve applicant's request for an adjournment until our next meeting. I don't know what the date is in January.
13th.
Ooh.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
You second it. Who you calling for yourself?
aye. Okay, let's put all this stuff away. So we need a site plan.
Survey.
No, I don't, Jack. We're good.
There's no survey in here? How did this get to us?
I know. It shouldn't, it really shouldn't.
No, but we
Not your
begged.
fault.
No, I was going to refuse these. All right, from now on. Next. Alexander Robertson, 270 Toilsome Lane, construct two-story single-family dwelling with attached garage. This was remarkably changed, right?
Yes.
Yes. I like it better, but, and so it was reposted and remailed, is that correct?
Sorry?
You had to repost and remail, you had to do everything?
Correct, yes, I
Okay.
just gave the affidavits. Yeah, the house got, also the house got smaller as well.
I think it's a better idea. Anybody want one?
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's got, okay.
Cedar shingle exterior and roof,
Okay, thanks.
6-inch exposure. Sure, yes. Yes. Redo to bring the heights down and overall size and
What provoked that? I'm just curious.
new owner.
Really? Wow. Things Good for them, actually. I like this house much better for the neighborhood, too.
It does fit better there.
So the garage is now,
On the east side,
and it used to be on the west
on
side?
the west side.
Yeah.
So now it's further, which pulls it further from the street, being on the east side, where it is now.
Okay.
Which is, I think is better. More distance.
I have nothing bad to say. To me, it looks okay to me. What are the materials?
Cedar.
All
Roof,
cedar?
Exterior facade, yeah, 6-inch exposure at the walls.
Is that something we can get you to put on the plans?
It's in the detail already.
These guys do. They're pretty careful, actually.
Where is it in the detail?
Do you have this, is that the CDs in there?
No.
I'll make sure that it's done that way.
Because we just approved what's submitted to this file.
Gotcha.
And so we
Yeah.
have to approve something that shows that.
Yeah, it's.
Sorry,
Or
the
it's
building department
written,
didn't
or you
make that
could
clear.
write something on there, but otherwise, we don't know what we approved.
Okay.
If someone wants to change things, which sometimes people do, as you know.
Happens from time to time.
Yes, they do.
The shutters, which are inoperable and appear to, if they were operable, would only come to, would not cover the opening. Is that right?
They are going to be operable, and they'll just doubled on each other.
Oh,
So
okay.
hinged, yes.
Great, thank you.
Is the brick also specified?
Danish one.
And it's white? Is it natural or white this time? It's white and black again?
This is natural.
Wow, what happened? Wow.
Thank you.
All right. Good for you. I'm liking it more and more. All right, I like it a lot better, and I'm saying yes. So anybody else want to say anything?
Can you describe a little bit the rationale for the box bay window on the right side of the north elevation on that western side?
It added to the interior plan to give that room a little more shape.
And
To the exterior.
And there's a similar sort of box that comes out on the porch, it looks like. Is that right?
Correct, underneath, yes. In person, it will make more sense.
Okay, because right now it reads to me sort of like a sort of late Victorian touch on
Yeah,
an
these-
otherwise colonial
These
feel.
drawings, you'd be, even the renderings are terrible, as you see everybody brings up. You never know until you see it in person, standing there from your perspective on how something really looks and how the light hits it. And you see it in the village when we do these details, it really, it adds a nice detail to the house.
I would just say, for what it's worth, if you're talking to someone who does the renderings, the very raked sunlight and shadowing on
Yes,
this
it's good for that.
elevation
Yes.
accentuates,
Yeah.
in not in a good way.
They went for it, didn't they?
Yeah, because it only,
Excessive shading.
yeah, it only comes out probably, 3 or 4 feet.
Like, wow. is
And the
that
shading makes it look like it comes out
Is
like
that-
10 feet.
Palm Desert or Southampton?
Well, the pergola looks like it's really on steroids.
Right. All right. Does anyone have anything, from the public have anything to say? Do you want to discuss more? So can you get the materials put on something that we're signing? I'm signing
Yes.
tomorrow? Okay, I'm trusting you.
I'm sorry, I do have one other question. On the rear elevation, the south elevation, the bottom part of A4-0, is there a little bifurcation in that center shed dormer? What am I seeing there? There's looks like a little shed dormer over the oval window, and then a separation of a couple inches, maybe? And then
Yeah, it's very slight. It's how the building shapes out. It actually helps, I think, with the dimension of the building, instead of just feeling like a builder going straight across. It gives it a little more, and the shadow line is nice.
Those little humps, I like those.
strip. Okay.
Yeah, you want to do that, because this kind of feels nice. This is together, and now this has its own.
I thought you did a good job.
Thank you.
I wasn't in love with the last time. Great. Do I have a motion to approve the application of Alexander Robertson, 270 Toilsome Lane?
Subject to
I-
the submission of materials on the plan.
Yes, I have, with the material specs on plans, with the, yes.
Okay, I move that we accept and approve the application of Alexander Robertson for 270 Toilsome Lane with the subject to...
Material specifications
Right,
to be
subject to the
placed on the
submission
plans.
of material specifications.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye. Rob, did you do an aye?
You're moot.
I'm moot.
Okay.
With all apologies, I say nay. It's not working for me, but you've got it passed.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, 27 Post Lane, LLC. Construct two-story single-family dwelling with attached garage, reconstruct cottage. Wait a minute, was this where we were missing a site? Were you supposed to bring in some
We
documents?
brought in a...
When?
Last week.
Yeah.
A survey of the property as it is.
Oh, yeah?
And we brought in today a new set of plans, but the plans have not changed. All that has changed is the flat roofs have been removed.
No, we're not hearing this. I've already gone on this before. I told
You can look at it now.
No, thank you. Well, you'll have to come back. We waited and waited for the site plan.
I
and then-
found this out on Wednesday, Susan.
I'm sorry, you're an architect, and you deal with the building department. That's not our problem. We've been in here working, and it's not available to us, and this is a
There's
complicated...
no second meeting this month. We have to wait
I'm
till
sorry,
January.
I did not do it. I did my job, so I'm asking that you...
I was
for
told
an
in the building
adjournment.
department that I could ask to have it reviewed.
Fine. They didn't ask me. I've asked them repeatedly. I've been in there. This has just got to stop.
It isn't that different. There's not a...
It's different. It's different. Listen, it had a flat roof, which I found.
Yeah,
With
and we
Rob.
also have to put solar panels on the house, and I've seen several houses with...
I don't want to talk about other houses. Do I have I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this till our next meeting because we were not given the plans in time to review them.
This is Post Lane.
Yeah.
Plans are exactly the same.
They are not exactly the same.
Yes, they are.
Okay, fine.
Plans, I'm talking about the plans.
The house is not exactly the same. I'm not going to argue with you. Do I have a second? No? Okay. Has anyone seen the plans?
I haven't.
Yes? Rob?
I reviewed the plans that were in the,
Well, those aren't the plans. That's the problem.
December
He's
9th
bringing
plans?
new
No.
plans right now.
Not right now. They were there at 12. Jeff saw us after we dropped them off.
Well, yes, I did. I did see them, and I have issues with them, which Jeff might want to hear. But on the other hand, but I have to respect the board in terms of if they haven't had it, it's unfair for them.
I mean,
to see it the first shot, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Did you see them?
No.
Rob?
Did you see them?
So what will we be doing?
Starting from scratch.
Jeff, could I just ask what your issues are, since you're the only one who heard it, and then I'll ask
No,
an adjournment?
we're not going
I
to
don't know.
open.
What do
We're
you-
gonna
what do you
close this
think,
up.
Alice?
The board sets their own procedure, so
Okay.
you have to decide.
I'm asking for a motion to adjourn this to our next meeting because the board has not had time to prepare because of the late submission of materials. Do I have a second? No one's seconding? What is,
I'll second you because I haven't seen them.
well, that's the deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it just isn't appropriate for us to be just flailing around. This is, and there were other parts to this application where he didn't put the materials in, and he kept saying he was coming. What? The site plan. I'm not going to argue with you. Did we vote on
I
this?
don't want to argue, but I also don't want to say things that aren't true.
Okay, fine. We have a different perspective. I'm voting aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
See you next time. Next, Lillian Fernandez, 65 Captain's Neck Lane, constructed dormer addition. Your name, please.
Lisa Zaloga, architect for Lillian Fernandez. Again, I have some little ones.
affidavits and little ones.
Posting and mailing, great.
Jurisdiction. File.
So This is basically a simple dormer expansion, if you will. A picture of the east side, or the side that faces Captain's Neck Lane. There's a little tiny dormer kind of set between the two larger roof forms here, and our goal is to just extend that dormer to the other larger roof form. So you can see the lower elevation is the east elevation as it currently exists, and we're just going to carry that roof line across and mimic the windows. And all the materials are going to match existing.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
Thank you for coming to us.
Good thing you waited.
Anyone on the board have any issue with it?
No. Does anyone?
Not at all.
Does anyone? Okay. Motion to approve
I think it improves, I think it improves the line of the house.
So I make a motion that we accept the application of Lillian Fernandez at 65 Captain's Neck Lane.
Second.
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Next, public hearings historic. The first, Thomas and Meredith Joyce, is adjourned, well, this is wrong on my, is it adjourned till 11:25? That was before.
Last one.
To 1/9.
114, 113.
127.
Oh.
Fine. To 1/27/20.
Okay.
Motion to approve the applicant's request for an adjournment till 1/27/20
So
for
moved.
Thomas. Second. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And next, Lifton Green LLC, 270 Ox Pasture Road. There's a letter in the file requesting an adjournment also to 1/27/20. Motion to approve?
Second.
Aye.
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 Second.
That moves us up to Pofall and Jimenez, 471 Hill Street, amend a prior ARB approval. Your name, please.
My name is Brian Brady. I'm the architect for the project. Affidavits are in the file.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
I forgot. I knew there was something, but I didn't remember exactly.
Do you have the small plans from
I don't
last
know.
time?
Yes.
Somebody will find something.
I have extras.
Okay, I think we have enough. Oh, because we didn't look at them.
No, okay.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Since you might be writing this up, you may want to.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to state for the record that I am friends with the applicant here, but I don't have any interest in the property and undue influence, and I believe I can be objective.
Oh, I thought you would say you were friends with Brian. And I said, we're not going to hold that against you.
All right,
That's true,
thank you
too.
for stating that. It's your prerogative. Is that correct, counsel? Yes.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Okay, this
Proceed.
application is to amend a prior application that was approved. And what I'd like to do, all we're doing on this, it's a very simple application. We're adding some windows and we're changing the roof line on an existing addition in the back. So if we could go to the elevations, that's the easiest way for you to see what we're proposing. The front elevation, which is the south elevation, you'll see at the top what we're proposing, and what's below it is what I'm calling existing, because that's what was approved, and there is absolutely no change to it at all.
Removing the weather vane.
I'm removing the weather vane,
Get
right?
that out of there. Next.
Good, Rob. If you flip to A6, or A7, sorry, that will give you the major change, if you want to call it major. You'll see an existing addition in what's below, in the center portion, which is a lean-to addition that was, it was an addition to the main structure. It was not part of the original structure. What we're doing is changing the roof line to that to make it more in keeping with the architecture of the house. It mimics what's happening in the front of the house as well. And by adding more windows in there, we're giving ourselves the opportunity to actually see through the house as you walk in the front door, which is a nice feature. And also, if you'll notice in what's existing, that door that's in the back there, it's 5 foot 8 inches tall. It was this little nook that was there that the previous owners thought was kind of cozy and cute.
I think that is kind of cute.
Works for me.
The two of us could go through it.
So now
Easily.
Together.
we're creating.
All right.
All right, and then we're also, over to the left here, we're adding some more transom windows, which are matching what's on the front of the house, because that's in the same room, so therefore the interior is all balanced.
Okay.
If you go back to the side elevations, we can look at A5. You'll see there is no change at all in the portion that's on the right-of-way. You'll see that in the foreground here, that new roof line change creates, we're adding a couple windows here instead of one there.
And it looks like because you're getting rid of the lean-to or shed roof, that you're then turning you're creating a shed roof to the east there off of.
Right.
Over those two windows.
And then on the existing west elevation, there's a fireplace there that was also added. It's not part of the original house. And you can see the existing windows butt up against it. And from an interior standpoint, it doesn't make the room work. So what we've done is we've separated it to balance it more and also added the transom windows to keep that room having transom windows on 3 sides. And that's it. Actually, I think it's just getting better and better. So.
Any comments? I don't have anything to, any objections.
I do have a letter in support of the application from one of the owners.
From one of the owners?
One of the neighbors.
Really? Do you think?
The owners love this.
Brian, was that the couple who were here last time?
No, that's another, they were here to support the application as
Right,
well.
because I did meet with them when I was inspecting the property coincidentally.
And Pine's in support?
No, that's a different letter.
That's a different, yeah. No,
It's a
and
negative.
so I.
That's what you handed.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, that has a whole other thing going on that's not about architecture.
So, but I think it's worth, since it was brought up, and it's a question I'd like to address to Zach. Personally, I think the design fits, is an improvement. It makes sense in terms of providing more light into what currently exists as a large great room that has limited lighting. At the same time, Ann Pine did raise in her letter concern that this was built as an artist's studio, and by making, in addition to that, changing that lean-to livable space, as architecturally attractive as it might be, is changing the nature of the original purpose of the house. Again, this was part of the artist community, and or at least an extension further down. Any particular feelings one way or the other on that, Zach?
Like 2 basic things for me. Studio is a use, so that sort of moves out of the architectural design area. I think it's hard to define what that word studio really means architecturally. I mean, anyone can use a space as a studio, so I think that's ambiguous. So I don't find that as a defining. What I would say is that the front facade, the south, is really a defining. It doesn't read as a house. It doesn't look initially as having been built as a residence.
Right.
Obviously, converted. And so that's the defining statement, and that's unchanged. So I think by modifying the rear facade to further accommodate residential use is not a major departure from what's already happened. So I don't think the argument of, we're corrupting the nature of this building that was built as a studio and now it's getting an architectural change. I don't
Well, it was used as a house before this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be, to me, I mean, as much as I'd love it to be a studio and the whole 9 yards, it would be back to where it was in, 1890 and 1910. Someone used it as a house previously.
Churches become houses, schoolhouses become houses, and I do think that the fenestration, the centered door, the whole way that front facade is treated, it still looks the same. You haven't attempted to modify the appearance of that. It still looks as it was built. So I feel that hers is kind of a theoretical position, but I don't think there's the actual problem here.
Going back to the existing south elevation, to me, the only thing that does disrupt the idea of the original intent is the 4-light lantern that has been applied to that roof line. But I wasn't here during the point at which this was
we went on and on.
Cupola.
The cupola.
Yeah.
And I would not.
Do they still need that?
I would not have approved that.
I didn't like
There are
it either.
skylights in there, and that was, we were removing the skylights and adding light into the space by a cupola.
But the skylights were facing north, as in a studio?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
You had that light.
And they weren't original.
But they were put in the 70s.
Oh, they were?
Like every other skylight in
Yeah.
Southampton.
Which is interesting, if it was an artist studio, you would want northern exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But my understanding is this wasn't actually used to paint it. This was a place, the art that went on here was plein air art that took place outside. So it's a
gotcha.
place for storing materials and works, but not
Oh,
actually
really?
painting.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Interesting, okay.
I believe, but
That's what I was
But
told too.
from my perspective, yes, it
I think
even
Ann
if it
had that
was
in
a
that
studio,
Okay.
someone used it as a house and
Yeah.
rented it out for
Yeah.
a lot of years
Yeah, but
that I
this-
know about.
But this, from a design standpoint.
Yeah.
Right.
I would not have concurred with, but I don't have a vote in that.
So, anyone have any comments back there? Motion?
I
Yeah.
would just say, by the way, if that form on the back were original, and if there was some indication that the intention was to have a shed dorm on the back, a shed roof on the back, I'd have a concern.
Uh-huh, and I like the dinky, I gotta say, I
Me
like the
too.
Like the
dinky
dinky
door. It
door.
had a quirk and a charm.
addition?
Would not know. We did some demolition, selective demolition to see, and the nails are different, everything's different from the original house.
But-
So we just
but-
know it was later on.
But not brand new, but it could have been an historic accretion, as far as you know.
Yeah, I don't know how far back it goes. Yeah. But I don't think you'd see a lean-to on an arts and crafts cottage, you know.
So, okay. Any other comments? Motion to approve the application.
It's a motion
Oh,
to
it's a
submit for written
motion to
decision.
close the application of Pofall and Jimenez at 471 Hill Street for written decision.
Second.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, yep.
Sarah? Either way?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. She's a nay.
You wanted to keep it open? Was there something else you wanted?
Well, I'll say yay, and.
You don't have to.
No,
It
no, no.
passes.
I just want to make sure there wasn't anything else you wanted to say
It's
for the
3-1.
Okay.
It's all good. You
Thank
should
you.
say your conscience.
Thank you.
That's your job.
That is my job.
Correct? Next, White Fence Incorporated, 409 First Neck Lane. Hello. Exterior alterations, windows and doors on the west and south elevations. This was quite the presentation. That picture at the front was so charming.
Oh, yeah, from the Historical Society.
That picture. Wow. Isn't that cute?
Talk about landscaping.
They didn't have landscaping. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, like Mocha Manto's sitting out there with like terrible weeds and shrubs in those early pictures for quite a long time. I guess they just let the cows out they did, to cut whatever was out there. In a way, it's weird, because I think like, that looks pretty spectacular.
These are
You know, I know that that's not what we do here now, but it is spectacular.
It's not
these
weird
are
at all.
planning board affidavits.
Uh-oh.
Do you have? I don't,
Uh-oh.
that's all I have. The mailing and the posting, that's not correct?
No, we're the
Well, they're for the
ARB.
planning board, but it says the same thing essentially. You want to take a look at them?
Yeah,
'Cause it's the
because
same-
Maybe she could cross it out.
Yeah, and just write.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
We have no jurisdiction if you can't, and we're going to have to ask you to come back. It's
Okay.
a law.
Understood.
I can't fix it.
Yeah, so everywhere it says planning board, if you could just revise that to the
Of course.
architectural review board.
But we do that
just-
now or after?
Yeah, if you could just do it now, that way they can have.
Okay, we could go ahead to another application and come back to you, do you think?
Would you mind?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine, thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
just in the interest of time.
Yeah, of course.
So this is going to be a recall for White Fences Incorporated. Next is BLC Hillside Investments LLC, 132 South Main Street. Reconstruct pool house and move and modify existing barn.
Good evening, members of the board. Tiffany Scarlato, of Counsel for Burke and Sullivan, 41 Meeting House Lane, Southampton.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your first name.
Tiffany.
Hi, Tiffany.
Scarlato? Yes. And I have here with me Ray Booth, who is principal and architect of record from McAlpine Architecture, to talk about the project. I am going to hand up to the board. The property does have some history, which I'm sure you're all aware of. The house is currently under construction, was the subject of a zoning board of appeals determination as well as a lot line modification. We have copies of those up for the board's consideration. The reconfiguration of the barn structure was approved. The pool cabana was not, so we may very well have to come back to you with that, but we'd ask for...
By the what? By the zoning board?
Right, but we made the garage more conforming by moving its configuration, bringing it back from... Made it more conforming with respect to setbacks. That's what the variance was for.
It is conforming.
Right.
It was non-conforming in its
exactly.
existing location.
And the pool cabana was going to be in a non-conforming location, and that variance was denied. However, the lot line modification, just to make it a little more complicated, the lot line modification will actually make both of those things conforming. We do have the approval, we just haven't executed on all of the documents yet, so here we are, technically speaking, without variance approval for the pool cabana, but with approval for the garage. Or barn.
Because I actually was over there, and I was concerned about, all this, that the lot, they divided the property, and I wasn't too sure about the lot coverage, and it was very confusing that the builder took me around because it was fraught with booby traps because they got crazy, a lot of building going on.
From that perspective, yes.
But I wasn't aware that that you had to get these approvals. Nowhere was it indicated in our file.
Which is
Which is bad.
Not normally would it have to be, Joe.
Yeah, well, for us, maybe
Right now,
not for
we have
you, but
approval
for
for
me,
the garage
we
and
need
the
to know
location
what
that
we're
it's
dealing with, so that's not true. So we didn't have the whole picture. Maybe it's fine and maybe it isn't, but it's a big waste of our time if it isn't, because then you have to redo it again.
We do have approval for the garage in the location in which it's proposed.
To move the barn?
Yes.
And twist it?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's do that then.
That's correct.
And not the other one.
That I'm unaware of.
Me too. I mean...
So it sounds like we should only be talking about...
As I said, the zoning board denied the variance for the, and we're willing to withdraw that.
They denied the variance for the pool?
For the pool cabana.
Okay, so let's talk about the barn.
Right, we'll talk about the barn, and we're going to leave the pool cabana out for right now,
Okay.
just to make things clearer.
Got it.
For all of you. We'll come back for that.
Just to make sure I heard you correctly, not to belabor, but you are working on a lot line modification that would make the setback for that legal, and that
yes.
if you receive that, if you could get the lot line done, you're as of right, you'll come back with plans for the pool house.
Well, we actually have received approval from the planning board for the lot line modification. It's a matter now of going through the motions and executing on all of those documents before it's actually completed.
Understand.
The health board and...
Right.
In which case a variance would not have been needed in front of them.
Anyway, exactly.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
So, good evening. The barn, if you will move to the elevations.
Do we have anything to look at?
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's right.
That'd be nice. Okay, thank you. Just wondering.
She was busy. I was trying to get it to her.
And could we the barn was built in like 1972?
And I believe it was deconstructed and renovated significantly in the 80s.
That's all right. It's not historic.
Yeah, I don't believe there is any historic value to the structure.
And there are photographs that we've included after the perspectives. You will see photograph 5 and photograph 6 on the page of...
Numbered photographs, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the existing barn.
So that's not original to the property?
That's for sure. Well...
Well, from mine.
Not from 1972?
Oh, here. So sorry.
Great.
The blue form didn't. It isn't, it's new.
Yeah.
Let's just go with that,
Exactly.
1972.
It
has those skylights, too.
Circa 1972. Okay? But it's on the property, so it exists.
It exists in a non-conforming location that we're moving to conforming.
Okay.
Okay, so if we flip back to the elevations, starting with the north elevation, everybody find?
Are they marked?
Mm-hmm. I think it's the other direction, I'm sorry. Here you are. So north elevation at the top.
Is it marked north?
Yeah, it says north elevation.
Little teeny tiny.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's right.
Lord almighty. No,
It's bigger on the full set.
that's, okay, got it. No wonder I couldn't find it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so our goal is to keep exposed cedar shake on the roof structure. We're removing the 3 skylights that are on the existing back of the barn, replacing them with 3 shed dormers. The cladding, we were going to do a vertical plank, cedar plank, instead of I believe it's horizontal siding at the moment. Adding 2 garage doors, a center window in the middle. There is a pergola that connects it to the house for the walkway. Then on the opposite side, south elevation, we've got a larger shed dormer over 2 sliding doors that provide access from the pool. Those are going to have small little shutters within those barn doors, so if they're open, the windows flanking either side, you can open those shutters. The existing cupola stays on the house. And then...
Because it's so historic? I hate those cupolas. What is the point of that? It's not historic. You can't tell me that because it's from 1972. Does that add to the charm?
It exists, yes, sir.
It exists.
It's there, so.
Well, most of what they have is, they've removed from the roof, though. All right, go ahead. I hate it. And the pergola, it just, there's an awful lot going on around here. What's the point of the pergola?
Well, that's there also, right?
The pergola is
No.
not, no, sir.
Well, I was looking at faint and heavy weight, so I was misreading that. I see.
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
heavy.
this
sorry.
is
I-
the approved
I was
house,
misreading.
and
My
the
fault.
pergola
Yep.
is just to provide them a walk from the house to the garage structure. Okay. The back east elevation, again, 3 windows, 1 door that goes to a small garage, 2 windows flanking the side. The elevation facing the house, which is the west elevation, again, 3 windows above. There is a stair on the corner of the house, so you're seeing 2 windows towards that stair. The materials that we were hoping to do for the house, this is an existing mock-up of the color of the existing house presently. And our hope was to go to a dark cedar shade so that the house kind of falls in shadow in the landscape, becomes a little more quiet with white windows as an accent.
The house or the barn we're talking?
The barn, sorry, is going to be in the
Thank you, I got
dark.
confused on
Would be
that,
that
too.
dark?
It was going to be that dark, yes, ma'am.
Whoa,
Wait, how dark? I'm sorry.
blackish.
It's a black.
I'm not done with that. It's not going to disappear. It's a huge thing sitting back there.
It actually, in the landscape, if you look,
What landscape? You've got that place chock-a-block with things, that property.
well, the landscape that's going to be added. The goal is, again, that it falls into shadow and is quieter and is not standing out as an object, was the reason for the dark color.
What does we say?
Is there a landscape plan that's part of this?
No, sir, but you can see on this plan here, all of this is landscape planting walls. If you go, it's actually helpful. We have worked with a landscape architect, and the perspectives shown here
will show our goals as far as getting some mature specimen trees that really integrate the structures into the landscape.
Well, inasmuch as Susan, and I think rightly so, had a concern about the black, if it was a standalone, would be somehow disharmonious, or at least it would stand out. On the other hand, if it's part of a landscaping plan, I can see your point, and it sounds like some of the other folks do as well. But if you are linking those two, then I think by all rights, that should be part of the submission. Not simply, that should be part of the submission, is that is an integral, the shading, the black, is an integral part of a landscape plan, and which is part of the application. So, you see what I'm saying? And those, the landscape plan should be part of the application.
You'd like to see a landscape plan?
That's
Yes.
right. You'd like to see it. There you go, Jeff.
Well, no, but it's more than that. If you're going to link something, then the two elements have to be part of it. So it's not me seeing it, but they have to be part of the submission, especially in the historic. If Alice is going to write this up, she has to make that cross-reference.
Is that something that we can provide to you to add to the submission?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yes,
asking.
so.
It's certainly something that exists, and we can have the landscape. That's
I have many,
It used to be kind of a
I can't say yes to this.
oaky.
I don't like the pergola. It's super busy back there now. Now it's a different color. There's way too much going on. So.
And Zach, what were you raising?
I guess I get stuck on things, but I'm on the page where they're colored aerial and surrounding
Yeah.
buildings, and the building labeled number 5, which has a man in the foreground with his mowing equipment, and some sort of a banner flying. That facade gable on that existing photograph, when that building was presumably the same building, then it was sort of
Dickered with.
that's not the same architectural feature which is being represented as existing now. So, and what's confusing for me is that looks like a building from the 1880s. And
Yeah.
so I'm having a problem with this representation of this building being built in 1970 something. I don't know about that.
Do you want proof of that?
Yeah.
It's, the framing and all of it is, it's not.
Because I'm just saying, this is
Where'd you get this
What are you
photograph?
pointing to as
We took
existing?
We took
This-
I know, I understand, but what's the existing elevation? I see the number 5.
Okay, so if we
What
go
page is
back-
the existing?
Right, so if we go back to the drawings where we're seeing the front and the back of what is represented as existing, one side of which, so-called north elevation, has 3 little skinny, that's kind of sort of the back,
That's the back that had the skylights.
kind of the back.
Yes,
And
sir.
then the so-called south elevation garage, which has this one large centered
But that's not
shape.
existing, that's what's proposed.
Where it's proposed.
So we're not seeing what exists.
No, there is nothing existing on the elevations.
Well,
Just
then
the
I-
existing
Then I don't know what I'm
photographs.
looking at. I don't know what the existing front.
Looks like.
I think it's the photograph.
Photograph.
Yeah.
Oh,
The photographs are
because
are
to
existing.
me, what's existing, that facade dormer is appropriate to that building, and it's appropriate to the house, and it makes it look more like it belongs there than this
Then the
big wide
proposal.
shed thing.
Well, I suppose once we reconfigure the building, because it's no longer going to sit the same way
Okay.
it does right now, it's being moved completely.
Correct.
Its orientation is going to be completely different, so that facade you're no longer going to see.
There is, if you go to this, we did a study just so that you could see that we're actually reducing the amount that you see the buildings. It is this drawing here. This is what you see existing.
Right, so that's a great existing presentation of what stands there. And it shows the relationship, this is on this sheet where it says existing
sir.
west elevation of main house and accessory structures. And it shows the house, big pile, it's altered, but it has, it's not a garage, it's a barn. It's a carriage barn, and it has that carriage barn situated on the property the way it ought to be. the way it ought to be in
In a
relation to the
non-conforming
house.
relationship.
The problem is it doesn't meet setbacks at all.
That's not what I'm factoring in. I'm only looking at preserving the relationship
Right.
of this accessory building of the period to the house which survives of the period. And everything else becomes a manipulation of what's in the landscape, and I'm
Yeah.
stuck on that.
So you're saying the
I thought the
existing,
so-called barn was built in the 1970s and is not a period structure. Well, it is.
So I actually have the same concern, or
just
similar
trying to
concern that
get past that
Zach had,
before.
which is
Well, then
you
if it
have
is,
an
it is.
accessory, you have an historic house with,
So even though it's not, in
hold on a
reality,
second, Ray.
How do
You
you-
know,
How do you know?
Let me, guys,
He's going
let
to
me-
go over
one
there.
person
That's how
talking
you're
at a
going to
time.
know.
Okay, yes, I say no.
I've got the floor.
You're going to go.
There's an historic house. There's a barn that presumably is not historic, but is...
We were told, no.
Right, is, I said,
It has to be ascertained.
assumingly, or at least as presented. But at the same time, it's set where a barn would be in that type of setting. Whether it meets setbacks or not, you could say it was grandfathered, doesn't matter. But one of the concerns I had when I was looking at those drawings is, how is that going to present from the street? In that, are we losing the historic character of whether, again, the barn is historic in terms of its construction
Right,
or
or
not?
not.
It gives the impression of a 19th century house, and
With
the
a barn.
siding, right, and a barn. So therefore, I'm not necessarily comfortable one way or the other with changing how that whole property looks when you then have the shadow image of then moving it in, and does that then make the whole house look big? And then you've got the attachment of the permit. I don't know why I'm doing this. Posse. And then with the pergola, maybe it's just changes the whole historical character of the lot.
So the lot line is getting changed. I'm sorry, I haven't
We
researched
did
the
receive
history of this.
variances to move the garage, to move the barn and reorient the barn
And that's
so that it is
because the property
conforming.
line was
There's a
There's a
two
flag
things at the
lot,
same
that's
time.
what.
Exactly, it's a flag lot that
Get to the
adjoins.
heart of the matter.
Right, just to be
They
clear.
divided the property.
Can I just finish? Just to be clear.
No, I get to speak too. Excuse me.
Are you speaking first?
I'm talking to the consultant.
Just to be clear, the flag lot adjoins the Presbyterian Church parking. So in terms of visibility from the street, that really isn't the case in this.
So
You can
where's-
see the barn
so where's
clearly from the
property
street.
line
Clearly.
in relation to,
This is just way out there. I'm not going along with any of it now.
and that's a new line that was drawn through the middle of that building.
I don't know the history of that
I'm
line. I
just
know
None
that
of
we
it's north,
reconfigured
south, east,
that
or
line so
west.
that all of
This
it
was
went
built over
Over the
the
line.
setbacks. The existing
Or it
location.
existed, isn't that the question?
What I will do is get you the history of
Yeah,
the building
it'd be
permits
very
on
helpful, 'cause-
on that building.
Because this
in the
looks like a
70s.
very happy relationship of two buildings, a main structure and a second accessory
And
building.
then the pergola, no,
Both being about the same period.
black. This is just way out of
South
control.
Main Street, I mean, like, so I'm not
I don't like the
understanding
barn
how
at
the
all.
property line goes like that, and now that has to go around the back. And I don't know how that got granted if it went through the middle of the building. Just saying.
What,
Okay, so I just don't understand how that happened, because we're trying to preserve not only main houses, but accessory buildings when they're lovely assets to a historical property, and they rarely exist. Most of the houses in town have lost their carriage barns. So turning this little guy that way and putting it to the back, that's what you'll see of it. Let me see that. All right, so, I don't know. I didn't have the history of it, that'd be helpful for me. Probably-
Yes, we let them extend this house. It's just more and more.
Right, okay.
The original, or at least the Sanborn, shows,
A barn?
well,
It's a
it has
footprint
some,
of something.
a footprint of outbuildings, so. That was
that in the file?
That was from the original blue form.
Did you get that?
I photocopied it.
Oh,
There it
she
is,
got
way
it.
back there.
Good
All
work.
the way back against, I see, and that's the church next door.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is back there. So that from the front, you look back to, it's all the way back on the left.
As I said, we'll get you the
Apparently,
history of that.
property's been subdivided.
Has been subdivided, and I believe that barn has been deconstructed and rebuilt, so I'll
Okay.
get you that history.
Would it be possible for me and perhaps anyone else on the board who wants to go see it? This is kind of a forensic thing. Obviously, the purview of the board is not about investigating the interiors of buildings, but toward the resolving of the question as to whether or not this is a new building or an old building. It'd be helpful to know.
Sure.
Because I think the concern would be very different if this is just a random rectangular barn-looking structure that was stuck
Can I
there
put
in the
this in there?
70s.
Let's have it stamped.
So, okay,
Where's that stuff? Get that stamped into the file. Julie will do it. Okay. Good. Good work. Thank you.
When did this came to us a while ago?
About a year ago.
Yeah.
Right?
For the house itself.
Right, for the house
Well,
itself.
it went on and on.
Right, and we were concerned about that time about the expansion of the house, and I just get...
And we felt, they wanted the porch expanded back. They've made the house deeper
I
already.
just get concerned that...
Well, I think we're here for just the barn.
I understand.
Well,
but
you know
but at
what?
the
We're
same-
allowed to discuss
but
this,
at
so
the-
please.
At the same time...
Stop.
The overall effect, Tiffany, is that incrementally, the project is getting bigger,
Aggregate.
bigger, and bigger with more...
And more and more.
Yeah.
Not amenities, but construction that if it was all presented at once, we might have said, too much. So we have to, even though you're presenting one piece of it, we have to look at the end result of the... Right, thank you, Zach.
And actually...
No, your words are better than mine.
To be clear, it's a 1.5 acre lot, so we're talking about
Right.
single-family residence with its accessory structures on a 1.5 acre lot.
Right, and it's in the historic district, so we think of it from a historic perspective.
And just sort of as a historic thing, connecting, unless it's, I mean, I'm looking at houses in Vermont, right? And it gets really cold and the snow gets really deep, and it's really helpful if you can walk from the house into the little house and into the barn, you don't have to go outside.
But they
We
don't
have
do
those
that.
problems here. So connecting a fairly significant accessory building that's in the back to the house via a structure is sort of not a thing. Okay, it's not a...
It's certainly not
an
historic.
architectural precedent for that. And that's why
Hamptons.
the presentation of this may look like a lot of structure.
Well,
I think that's just the first...
I went to the property. There is a lot of structure. We allowed them to extend the house, and then they've cut off half the lot. Then they're getting the pool moved up. You can't see that now. They have the two pool house things. There's a lot going on there. In fact, it's extremely busy. So if they have the barn, if it were not there, there's no way anything that big could be, agreed upon with all this other stuff going on there. I asked for lot coverage.
I'm happy to get you a survey with lot coverage, both as proposed and with the final lot line modification.
That'd be good.
So perhaps we should wait until we get the next piece.
What is the height of the building?
Ooh, big.
Just want to know to the ridge line.
I'm sorry, we don't have it on the plans. Yep. Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
We haven't, for good reason, for understandable reason, we haven't talked about many of the architectural details. In addition to some of the concerns that have been expressed, I'm struggling with what appears to be those windows in, I guess, in a stairwell going up to the second floor. It's just funny. And the dormer on the south side is just a funny angle when seen from the west, which is where you'll see it from the street, admittedly at an angle and behind some existing plantings. The asymmetry of it, to me, one of the great things about what exists now, regardless of the history of it, which I guess we're going to learn more about, is that there's a symmetry to what you look at, in addition to the separation that exists visually between the two. What's being proposed is quirky, which works in some cases, but we really lose the sense of symmetry and simplicity. And I share Zach's concerns about just the physical connection, that there's a reason outbuildings are called outbuildings and not wings. So
How tall was it?
24 feet, 3 inches.
The barn?
So that, to me, fights against the history of this, because I think as of 1979, or whenever someone said it might have been built, there would have been a height limitation less than that. Something's strange about the history of the building that, I don't know.
We'll dig into that a little bit
Okay.
and get you some information.
All right, so are you asking for an adjournment till our next meeting on the 13th of January, 2020?
Yes.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn till our next meeting.
So moved.
Aye. Second.
Should we recall the
Yes,
last?
recalling White
Fence.
Fence Incorporated, 409 First Neck Lane. Have you, so now you realize that whatever you had that for, you have to get another one.
Oh, so it never was for the planning board, we're only going to the architecture review
Oh,
board.
you just had the wrong forms?
We just had the wrong forms.
Wow, okay, mystery solved. Good work. Good work for Alice.
Thank you.
Fixed it.
Thank you.
Problem solving.
Yes, that's good, because we're trying to do the right thing.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Let me get this over there.
Zach?
You looked at it though, right?
Yes, I did.
He did. Isn't that the fabulous?
Okay, so as you guys know, this house was built in 1889. Oh, sorry, my name's Caroline Catalano. I'm here for Danielle Romalda's Architects, who is also the owner of White Fence Incorporated. So he is working towards restoring the house back towards its original state. So some of the items we're doing are to keep in that spirit, and some are just, you'll see, I'll go through them. So we want to remove the existing wood deck that was added in 1981.
Yeah, could you pull that off of the
sorry.
microphone? Sorry.
So better.
Nuts.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
So there's this wood deck that was built in 1981 along with these 2 windows at the dining room. And you can see them in elevation. The doors are here and the deck is here.
That's on the rear of the property, right?
Yeah, this is all at the back west elevation. So we would like to bring these doors back to windows and remove the deck. So in doing so, we're taking the access for the exterior that was at the dining room and bringing it through this pantry. And we will do that in the same location as the window.
So you're saying you would
So we're
convert a
taking
window
to a door. And all of the door will match the exterior style. It's going to be a, everything that we're doing is matching the existing to the house. As you can see. Here, sorry, small 11 by 17s. So you can see that the new exterior door will be a storm door with a double Dutch door, which is characteristic of all of the exterior doors at the house currently. We also...
Is that illustrated here?
That is, yes. And the
Okay.
photo is here, so it's on A900.
So A900 is the
Yes.
typical,
So there's 2. So they have the Dutch door on the inside, and then there is the storm door, screen door on the exterior.
Mhm. Okay.
And the photo is 2 on SK08.
and that's on the back.
This is on the back facade, yes. This is looking at door 101 right there, a new landing. Then there is an existing door coming out, again on the back facade, but on the south way. There's like the shape of the house. And we will just be extending this existing landing to stairs to grade. The wood deck area is going to be replaced with pavers and loosened pavers to match the existing at the front with grass in between. And the other modifications that we're asking for is, as you can see on SK07 number 1 and drawing
Wow, that deck.
yeah, the deck was an
Here,
addition.
underneath. Yeah,
just tell me if I'm going too quickly over the scope. The there's an existing door at the sunroom, which is a south elevation, the side of the property that does not go down to anything. So we would like to replace it with a window to match the existing at the sunroom.
Okay, what sheet was that on? I'm sorry.
That is on A204.
Oh, 204.
So that corner then wrapping around has really sort of 3 bay by 3 bay windows in the columns, set into the columns. But you're not applying a column between.
No, we're not. If you're looking at the plan, it's a little bit of a different condition because there's a bump out here.
Yeah.
And if you look at the existing photo, there actually was like a porch that wrapped here. And the dream is to bring the house in and restore the porch. So that's kind of where we're working towards.
Okay.
And lastly, there's one chimney, a non-functioning chimney at the back of the house, the west foundation, the west elevation, that we are proposing to remove. And that is, you can see it on sheet 203. And it's been probed, and we're not sure why it's there, but it goes up through the garage and all the way up through the roof.
That's in 203.
Yeah, that's on A203.
Well, is that the,
And there's also a photo of it on SK07.
And that doesn't show, so is that on the very northern portion of the house?
It's on the southwest.
So why isn't that showing up on the west elevation?
In the CAD file or on the photo?
In the A202? Or is it and it's just not taken out?
You know what, it just isn't, because it's in the forefront of the house,
the
and we cut
waiting.
the section through.
Sort of.
So we
Okay.
cut back further.
Got it.
well, that was actually the kitchen chimney, though.
Oh.
So when you cooked, you didn't need it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would
We've
be,
sort of stopped cooking with wood.
Yes.
So, yeah,
that makes sense.
that would, but it can't be seen from the front of the
No,
house. And there are 4 other chimneys remaining?
yes, all the other chimneys are remaining.
Yeah. I'm just curious about, it's not the major presenting feature of the house, of course, because the symmetry of these chimneys, which are, great in that original picture, it's all being preserved, but is the condition of that chimney, or is it that it's occupying valuable real estate? What is prompting the removal?
Yeah, it's occupying real estate on a space, but again, this is something that if no one's amenable to, we're happy to leave it. It's not
I mean, it
like,
comes all the way up through, so
Yeah,
it
goes all the way
occupies
up.
space
Mhm.
on both stories. It's just that, I presume it to be an original feature because it was the kitchen chimney. So it's not the major chimney, and it's not one that you even really see, obviously, from the front facade. But unless there's a compelling reason to take it down, I think it would probably be better to just leave it there.
okay, we're
want
open to that,
suggestion?
that's fine. Mhm.
But I find these other modifications of really essentially either not problematic or kind of an improvement.
And no changes really to the north and east elevations?
No.
So if we were to approve this, are you an architect?
I'm not. I work for the architect's
Okay,
office.
so someone would have to mark up the plans to not.
What if it were conditional upon just not taking the chimney down?
Oh, I see.
I mean,
Okay.
does that need to be drawn back in? I don't know if it
Well, I
even
don't
appears
have,
on drawing.
I thought, God, that deck. It
I have,
makes me think
the
we
builder
should
here
never have a
can-
deck. It was
Sorry,
so
do you want to
ugly.
speak?
Oh, I don't know, can
I
you
might
mark
have something
it?
to add to that chimney. It's not the kitchen chimney.
Just need to give your name, sorry.
Donald Wilson,
Okay.
the builder. I can show you on the
But
slide.
again, we're also fine
where's
keeping it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to,
No, we're curious. So on the plan,
the kitchen chimney is here.
It was.
This chimney.
We're
was
completely fine
actually
keeping the
never
chimney.
flued. It's got, the flue is perfectly clean.
Oh, I had some
Never had anything burn in it.
Oh,
We don't
you
know what
did?
the
Are you
chimney
putting-
The actual chimney.
I was reading this, but there's the kitchen.
It's
I'm sorry, can we just get this on the record?
I'm sorry.
No, that's right.
It's an
Please keep
explanation.
speaking, but we,
So,
let's get it on the record.
That chimney was actually never used. We scoped it, and it was never used,
Ever?
ever. There's
Ever
never-
since
I've got pictures
18?
inside the flue, and there's been no combustion ever. It's clean. It's like it's brand new. The actual chimney flue fireplace would be this one over here on the side deck.
Which is represented in the drawing, in plan, and it's that fourth chimney. The three of them are kind of in the front block of the house, and then
On this back here.
so it's actually a fifth one. So there's 6 chimneys altogether. Okay. Well, so I stand corrected. I'm seeing this is a kind of a double kitchen, and the larger space of the kitchen where the appliances are and whatnot is the larger chimney, and that's still in there. It's probably not working, but it's in there. Whereas this secondary back chimney, well,
to find the flue clean was shockingly
yeah, I have a
surprised.
feeling that the servants that were living in the bedchamber upstairs needed a source of heat, but maybe somebody misbehaved. In any event, if it was never used, I don't know how that affects this, but it's yet another chimney.
That, I don't know what to say to. So but it's sort of your call.
I just feel, again, if it's not occupying space that's, or it's in a condition where it's falling down, there's some compelling issue, it would probably be
All
better.
right.
That's fine.
I'll go with you. Okay.
But thank you for the explanation.
And actually, we haven't dickered much with the inside of the house, have we? These were all external and
Yes,
lattice.
it's all
So
exterior,
I
we're just trying to
actually
see what
consistent
goes with
with
what.
oh, sorry. I could understand where we wouldn't want to start dismantling parts of the house that may have existed all along. How's that? Seem reasonable?
Yes.
By the way, look at the landscape around
Yes,
this.
no one had
No, we've all been
landscaping.
talking
I don't know where you people with hydrangeas came from, but they didn't come right
There aren't
away.
even trees here.
They didn't ever. Look at Mocamonto. Look at all those.
I
It's
know.
just windswept
I know.
with a couple of cows out there to cut the weeds down. All right, so.
Is there any public
anyone?
commentary?
There's
Lisa, do you
no
want to
one
say anything
left.
about this? Charlie, do you want to say anything about this? Okay. So I'm going to make a motion that
Where did
that
we land on the chimney? I'm sorry.
it's going to stay in.
It's got to stay.
It's got to stay. So do you
So
want to ask
close-
the applicant to withdraw the request for that particular chimney?
Yes.
So it's not a part of this application?
Yeah, that
Can
would solve
we can
Can't
just
you-
approve it subject to in the written decision. This will be a written decision, right? So
It will be a written decision.
But they have to stop
She
asking.
can't modify the plans.
correct.
So I
They
don't
have-
know how to do that.
So they have to have their architect submit.
She's the agent for the applicant.
Yeah, well, but she's the, but,
So
oh, she is to,
she
has to
is
go
the
back.
agent for the applicant. She is here on behalf of the applicant. She can withdraw the request for that particular.
Just verbally?
Yes.
Can we pull the page out of the plan?
I'm seeing it doesn't appear as if the chimney removal is represented on any plan.
Oh, it's just.
It is.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can see it.
Elevations.
Yeah.
Well, in which elevation?
Point.
Oh, I see where you have a little
Yeah.
bubble.
A203.
Sorry, I missed that one. Yeah, A203. So,
So couldn't we close this for written decision subject to, that removal, or the
Agent?
retention of
So
that
they're
chimney and
allowed to
submission of plans showing the retention of the chimney?
So,
On page
We,
203.
we could do it as a condition of approval also, if you're more comfortable with doing it that way.
because they're not adding, they're not doing, we're asking them not to do something.
not to do something.
Yeah, I hear you.
Which to me seems like it might be easy to deal with. But I'm listening to what you have to say. What's the way we should deal with it?
You can close the record today, and we can decide that you would like the chimney to remain, if you're willing to submit a new plan showing the removal
Of course.
of this bubble on page A203.
Yes, we could do that.
Subject to that change.
Okay.
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 Wait. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we close the application for written decision by council, subject to receipt of a revised page A203 showing retention of the chimney.
Okay, thank you.
Any second?
I second the motion.
Aye.
Nicely done motion.
All right.
Good luck. No, we can close the record. I'll just make a comment generally, maybe in particular in relation to this last, that I so appreciate when people take nice houses like this and do tasteful. You know, these houses, people think they live forever. They need a lot of work, and it seems like someone is investing time to make it work in
Yeah,
this
thank
case.
you.
So
Definitely.
I just wanted to state appreciation for the record.
Yeah.
All right, so are any of these in here?
Those are the ones that were stamped.
Those are
Oh,
stamped. These are
put
stamped.
those in
Yeah.
there. Okay, sorry. Next, and hopefully finally, no, yes. Innovator Innovator Properties LLC, 224 Great Plains Road, amend a prior ARB approval to combine two small pool pavilions into one single structure. Your name, please?
Lisa Zaloga, I'm the architect.
Gonna keep one?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. We have jurisdiction.
We do?
We do.
I know.
That can go in the file.
All right, all right.
Very much.
So, you have your copies? So, back in January, the board granted a certificate of appropriateness to build two little, about 65 square feet each, pool pavilions that were located on the south side of the swimming pool. The new proposal is to reduce that to just one pavilion on the west side of the swimming pool. And you can see the plans and the elevations here. The general look and feel of it in terms of the trellis work will stay the same. However, they have lowered the roof pitch and lowered the height of the building so that it's about 10 feet tall. So it kind of has a more of a pergola look, even though it's a solid structure. And it's about 250 feet off of the road, squarely behind the building.
And I'm not even going to object to the metal roof.
It's flat.
It's in the back. And
It's in the back. It's
a
as
very
far
low-
back as you can get.
It's a very low pitch that deserves a metal roof.
Thank you.
I have no
And running
objection.
back and forth between the changing area and the bathroom.
Here?
No.
You gotta run.
Has some logic associated.
Only after you run down the stairs with those, in those houses where you can see in. It's just
Do you have-
incredible.
Do you have any problems,
No, I have,
No.
it's pretty minimal.
Yeah.
Jeff?
No, it's
Okay,
fine. It's
motion to
beautiful.
close.
I'll make a motion that we close the application of Innovator Properties for written decision by council.
I second the motion.
Aye.
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 Wow. Next,
That was so fun.
I believe Our Lady of Poland Church has requested a
yes, an adjournment.
adjournment
And so-
until,
They didn't put it, don't worry
specify,
about it.
okay.
It's like the congregation has to, or the trustees of
It's going to
the,
take a while.
yeah, Zach's working on it, no
Are you?
problem.
Can
Yeah.
would you make them aware of what we heard at the SHPO meeting, which is that there is a special trust that is, I believe, partially administered by SHPO called the Trust for Sacred Spaces,
Landmark.
for which I believe they would be eligible were they to be landmarked. They may be aware of this.
Yeah, I didn't mention that specifically, but I mentioned generally that they would qualify for grant support for certain sorts of
I
improvements.
think
And that is not their motivation.
They
it's not.
just,
Well,
But they should be aware.
they should be aware of it.
They are aware.
And Linda McKay would be happy to talk to them about it, I believe.
And it's, actually, this Fund for Sacred Sites is
Sacred Sites.
Landmarks Conservancy.
Yeah.
and there's a letter also for Lifton Green LLC, the advisory letter to the ZBA, request to adjourn to 1/27/20. That being said,
Oh, and I would just like to, you mentioned this at the beginning, just for the public record, on the agenda next time, there will be a discussion of a change in this committee just to try to address signage in a little more rational way. So I wanted to put that in the public record and get a heads up to fellow board members.
I think
to
it's
expect
a request to address signage
the
in a more
process.
efficient way, but it's not efficient for us.
Or more user-friendly, a little more
them, but
flexible
more
for
work for
applicants.
us. Yeah.
Which is a request we've had, and we have the ability under our code to address it in a different way.
Right.
So I'll circulate some points for people to consider beforehand, and we can discuss it at the next
Okay.
meeting.
Motion to close the meeting of the board. Would- I think it was already adjourned, but. Motion to.
Let me
Adjourn for all
check.
purposes.
Let me just
To
check.
adjourn.
Lifton Green, they've,
I thought this was from before. Is that a new letter? We've had a million
there
letters.
is a new letter.
Okay, motion to approve the Lifton Green LLC's request for an adjournment.
For the 27th of January.
Right.
Second?
Aye.
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 All right. Motion to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for tonight, December.
I'll make a motion that we
9th.
close this meeting of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation.
Great. Second?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.